And we've seen only a little spin in this innings. Ravi Jadeja bowled 2 overs yesterday. Kuldeep Yadav 4 reasonably expensive overs today. Ravi Ashwin, who we hear had taken a blow to the hand. There was just a few exploratory overs for him, and then in the lunch break his whites were off, he was back in his training kit and he was bowling in the nets. So India have used the last day or so to really get miles into the legs of the pace bowlers rather than overworking the spinners.
Sharma's in. He bowls to Nijar. They're going to place this one. He's going to pick up runs here. It may or may not quite reach the boundary. It won't, in fact, but they'll be able to come back for 2. Nudge down to deep backward point. Nijar up to 23, 347 for 8. Email from Barbara Lashley. She says, hello Paul, sorry but I have to disagree with you about shortening county matches to 3 days. If batsmen are to learn the patience required to be a test batsman, then the 4-day game is important. Your statement about most games finishing well inside 3 days, if true and borne out by statistics, surely demonstrates that the art of building an innings is being lost. How England needs a Geoffrey Boycott who can hang around a bat sensibly. And Barbara, I agree with everything you said, except I never actually recommended going to 3-day cricket, as Sharma is in and bowls, and that ball's a leave outside off stump, and it's a no ball, so 348 for 8. What I actually said was, Barbara, that I love the way in this game tea was at the advertised 3:40 and close of play was at the advertised 6 o'clock. I'm still thoroughly advocating 4-day cricket, but I just think that there are times when things drag on a good half hour, 3/4 of an hour past the set timings, and then when you see in retrospect that they've made up all sorts of time for any possible rain interruptions on days 1 and 2, and still the game is finishing midway through the 3rd day, and I just felt that it would be better to finish at 6 o'clock, still very much 4 days. Okay, it'd shorten the game a bit, but not many of them are remotely going the distance anyway. Sharma's in and bowls, and that goes through outside off stump. But thank you very much indeed, Barbara. Thanks for emailing us.
The end of the over. Essex 348 for 8. Nijar has 23. Kushi 9. Remember, India made 395 in their first innings, so Essex not far behind at all. Sports Extra listeners, you'll be taken off to the Tour de France in about 10 minutes' time, and then that will be the last you'll hear of this game on Sports Extra. After the tour is finished, you'll hear action from the Kia Super League and the Vitality Blast. 2 matches been taking place at Headingley today, and we wait to see if Adil Rashid will be included in the Yorkshire side, just for the plot to thicken yes. slightly more and the story that has rumbled on over the past 24 hours or so.
So I think this is Hardik Pandya coming back into the...
I think he may be Mohammed Shami.
Right, we'll take your word on it. Shami is in and bowls, and that's a bouncer and goes over the head of Kushi. Yes, I was going purely by it is, you're quite right. They've corrected it on the scoreboard now. Yes, thank you very much in advance, as it were, of 5 Live Sports Extra leaving us at 2 o'clock. Great to have you with us both this morning and for the first 2 days, and I think it's actually been a far more absorbing contest than many would have anticipated, with the ability to see very good spells early on from Essex, then the wonderful batting from, in particular, Virat Kohli. Here's the next ball from Shami, and Kushi drops the ball in front of him, and then latterly, just what a good job the Essex youngsters have made of their batting.
Yeah, the reason that it's been such an interesting contest, it hasn't just been a glorified net, is because of the way Essex have played. You know, at one stage on the first day, India were 44 for 3. Then we saw Virat Kohli bat beautifully, but even after he was out, it was 147 for 5. It needed some the very long Indian batting lineup to get them up to 395, and then Essex have batted with such resistance.
Shami is in and bowls, and the ball is played back to the bowler by the debutant, who is Feroz Kushi, and he's not looked phased at all in the way he's set about his first innings.
The ball has still moved slightly off the pitch today. What I'd say that is hampering India is there isn't the same movement nipping about off the seamer that we saw, the same pace in the pitch that we saw on the first day, and so batting maybe is just a touch easier at the moment. But by the same token, it's been India's decision to employ the pace bowlers as much as they have, rather than turning to the spinners.
Shami is in again, bowls, and this ball is played back to the bowler. There's no run. Final email for the moment from Jacob, who says he's listening from the Tompere stand. According to the laws of cricket, he says, the follow-on total in 3-day games is 100 less. It won't happen in this game, but would it have been so today? He says, I'm enjoying the commentary and keep up the good work. I also assume India are playing for practice, not for the win. Well, realistically, with Essex still batting, there wouldn't be time left in the game, which I imagine will finish around 5 o'clock, as the next ball, it was a misunderstanding between the two batsmen here, and the throw came in. Had it hit direct, then Kushi might well have been on his way. He got halfway down the pitch, only to be sent back by Aaron Nijjar. Moot point whose call it was there, and fractionally more the batsman in my view, but anyway, Nijjar wasn't coming, and Kushi managed to get back and was helped by the throw missing.
Yeah, when asking if India are trying to go for the win, all things being equal, even if this was a 4-day game, you'd say that the only team with such a short amount of time left in the game, the only team that could really force a victory is probably Essex.
Here's the next delivery from Shamien bowls, and that ball is way outside off stump. No need for the batsman to address that. That is the end of the over, and Essex 348 for 8, 47 behind India's 395, 23 to Aaron Nijjar, 9 to Feroz Kushi, and the innings of the day so far, and of the innings to date, played by Paul Walter with 75.
You just want, at the moment, India do not look too concerned. They have not been particularly, energetic. They've been fairly laid back about their business. Yes, they probably would have wanted to see Essex bowled out by now and batting once more, but they don't look too concerned. I wonder if this pair are still together for another hour, if they may be getting a little annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, their approach could be likened to a racecourse gallop, where you do, put your horse through the paces, but you don't produce the stick at all, and you don't really push the horse to the limits. And I think that's fair enough. Sharma's in and bowls, and this goes through outside off stump to Aaron Nijjar. A lot of away movement there.
Just a hint from Ishant, using this pretty new ball, just being able to shape it away from the left-hander.
Yes, I was trying to think, I'm looking at Feroz Kushi making his debut with the number 23 on this back, trying to think who used to wear that number for Essex, and I think a few years ago it was the slow left-arm spinner Tim Phillips who wore the number 23. Nice to remember Tim on the Essex staff for a great number of years, must have been about 14 or 15, as here's Ishant Sharma in bowls, and the ball is played out into the offside, and score remaining at 348 for 8. Tell you what would please Essex enormously, and they'll have to bat well to get anywhere near it, but they would love to prize a first innings lead out of this, because they really have played, at least half the batting lineup, particularly once the first 2 or 3 wickets have gone down, of players that we've only rarely seen before, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of. And Ishant Sharma around the wickets. Ball in now to bowl to Aaron Nijjar, and they turn round by the two. He was looking to flick that through a mid-wicket gap, and instead it goes to backward point, but it did go along the ground. There's no run, and the score remaining 348 for 8 this morning. As you heard me mention, Paul Walter making a fine 75, bearing in mind this is his first game since the very first championship match played at Chelmsford here back in April, and he also got 4 wickets, albeit expensively. So he's had a very good game. Michael Pepper, who made his debut in the most recent championship game against Somerset last month, made a very good 68. James Foster brought back into the side for this match. Splendid 42. He put on 91 with Paul Walter. Here comes Sharma in, and bowls to Nijjar, and that's down leg side this time. Nijjar, without really getting all of this, he's going to pick up 2 runs to backward square leg, and that brings up Essex's 350. They think about a third on the throw, but decide against it probably wisely. 350 for 8.
You mentioning number 23, Feroz Kushi, and the number 23, quite famous in sporting terms. 23 it was the number of Michael Jordan, the great Michael Jordan, yes, in the NBA. David Beckham wore number 23. when he was at Real Madrid.
Right.
I think there's been some other famous 23s. I'm just trying to look them up, but I think it's quite. I wonder if. I doubt it. I doubt that Cushy is following in the footsteps of Jordan and Beckham, but you never know.
I can add a frivolous one in to this equation as Sharma's in bowls, again down leg side, a flick and a miss there from Nijjar, and that is that Essex's greatest ever home-produced batsman, Graham Gooch, is born on the 23rd of July. In fact, a belated happy birthday to Graham there.
Maybe that is Feroz Cushy's tribute to the great Graham Gooch.
Indeed.
Or maybe not.
Well, he certainly was great in Essex terms, and those were the days when he could be playing for England and the match would finish just before lunch, and he'd zoom down and join in an Essex game subsequently on the same day. I think he did that a couple of times. As here is Sharma in to bowl to Nijjar, who steers this ball defensively into the offside. Again, there'll be no run. It's the end of the over, 350 for 8, and we have now had 89 overs. I'll take one more over and we'll bring in Chetan Narula to join us again.
So we're just on the verge of joining the Tour de France. We'll head over to I think they're in the French mountains again. Head over there after one more over, just after 2 o'clock. Once more, it's all pretty relaxed stuff. India fielders not in a rush to get around between the overs. Umpires very slowly making their way to their positions. Batsmen relaxed chat mid-pitch.
So Shami comes in, bowls to the right-handed Cushy, Nijjar being a left-hander. No run, played to mid-wicket, 350 for 8, 45 behind. And I would imagine from the Indian point of view, Stefan, that they will be very happy if they get these last 2 Essex wickets and Shikhar Dhawan and Cheteshwar Pujara make a few runs in the second innings, and it gets to about 5 o'clock and the two sides agree to call it a day.
Yeah, you mentioned to me during the lunch break off air that the prospect of this game finishing at 5 o'clock, it hadn't crossed my mind until then.
I think it will, but I may be wrong, as Shami's in the bowls, and that's a leave outside off stump, and score remaining at 350 for 8.
Well, you're right. If we look down the India scorecard from the first innings, Vijay, Kohli, KL Rahul, Dinesh Karthik, Hardik Pandya, 4 members of the likely top 7 for Edgbaston next week, all past 50. Then Dhawan, Pujara and Rahane. Rahane only made 17, Dhawan without scoring, Pujara 1. Those 3, although I'd say Rahane's place is secure anyway.
Here comes Shami in, bowls to Cushy, who has a bit of a waft at this. He didn't move the feet properly. He's still very safe because the ball was a foot and a half outside off stump, and because he didn't move the feet, he couldn't reach it. 350 for 8.
Yeah, just skirted along the ground slightly, not bouncing the way that Cushy would have expected it to. Again, maybe just another example of how the pace has gone out of the pitch slightly.
Yeah, it's often the way that Chelmsford pitches get lower and lower as the game goes on, and certainly we haven't really seen anything get up off anything close to a length. As here comes Shami again and bowls. Now that one does get up. Having said that, I tempted fate, but it's because he dug it in considerably shorter and takes Cushy somewhere on the arm guard, if he's wearing one. He doesn't appear to be any the worse. Looks a cool customer, Cushy, I must say. First time I've seen him, or that most people will have seen him in the ground unless they've watched Essex second 11 cricket or club cricket. And still 350 for 8, a sort of fairly quiet start to play after lunch.
Yeah, he didn't play that one particularly well, Cushy. He almost just took his eye off it slightly.
Yeah.
Maybe not expecting it to bounce in the way that he did. And he's lucky it didn't loop up into the hands of a fielder.
Faces Shami again. And that again is dug in a bit shorter, but very well played by Cushy, who seemed to have all the time in the world just to steer it for 4. Down through wide third man, come backward point. And he got well on top of the bounce there. It did get up a little bit, but he certainly proved, I said he was a cool customer, that he wasn't fazed by the previous delivery. 354 for 8, and his contribution is 13.
And Essex now only 41 runs behind India. So there is a chance of a first innings lead. Not that India look too concerned about that.
No, it'd be interesting to see who Essex send in at number 11. We'll just bring Cheatham in at the end of the over here. I don't think we've got long left. I think there's just one ball left. 90th over being bowled. And that one's a leave outside off Stumps. So commentary will be taken up by Stefan Schemmelt, and he will be joined by Chetan Narula.
Thanks, Paul. Cricket commentary of the final day of this game between Essex and India will continue online, but now on BBC Radio 5 Live Sports Extra, we're heading to the 19th stage of the Tour de France, and to talk you through the action will be Rob Hales and Tom Fordyce. So here at Chelmsford, Essex have moved on to 354 for 8, Aaron Nijar 25, Feroz Kushi 13, and maybe Chetan Narula, who's just come in alongside me, he can tell us maybe what mood India will be in at the moment that they're still fielding. Their lights been batting by now?
Different than my smile, actually.
Isant Sharma from our river end, padding in round the wicket to Nijaru, edges on the bounce to third slip. It's gathered by Ajinkya Rahane, who falls backwards onto his back. 3 slips, point, cover mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and a long leg down there in the shadow that's cast by the black sight screen.
The thing is, so when you have tour games like this, it's mostly about what the visitors can get out of it, in terms of practice, in terms of their preparation for the test series. And you would expect that the hosts, and we'll come back to that.
Sharma, casting a small shadow behind him, is in now and bowls to Nijar, just gently moves away from the left-hander, who leaves alone.
The general feeling is that the hosts will be gracious and just let the visitors dictate terms in terms of the match play. I'm not talking about conditions and reducing from 4 days to 3.
You're saying that Essex should have declared?
Yes.
You really? Do you think that?
Yes. Or at least the Indian team management would have liked them to declare. Obviously, I'm not putting them on record. That's just my feeling that 2 sessions remaining in the game, and with Shikhar Dhawan and Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane needing some batting practice, well.
Ishant pads in, and Nijar comes forward to defend into the offside. No run, 354 for 8. You wouldn't get that sort of hospitality if you were playing in Australia, though, would you? They'd be grinding the tourists into the ground.
They're not getting it here either.
No, that's it's an interesting debate, isn't it? Are Essex here to serve the purposes of the India team, or actually do they say, we'll do what's best for us and we'll do what's best for England?
It's a very fine line, isn't it? I mean, why would and this was going to be a first-class game, and then it wasn't, and so many things have happened, really.
Sharma's dark hair bounces up and down. It's swept backwards, and he bowls. There's a bouncer to Nijar. Sharma almost bowling himself off his feet.
Which is why
Nijar ducks underneath.
Sorry about that. But which is why I think practice games or tour games, where the visitors are looking to get the most benefit out of it, shouldn't be more than 2 days. You rather play 2 matches of 2 days each than have a 3-day game or a 4-day game. On their last tours to South Africa and New Zealand and Australia, they played 2-day games.
Sharma, he walks towards us, then he turns menacingly, pads into Aaron Nijar, who once again just leaves a wide delivery that scuttles through on the second bounce to Dinesh Karthik. So you're saying that a 2-day game where you say, right, we're going to bat for a day and we're going to bowl for a day, and we'll do that twice.
Have a couple of days in between, then do it again.
Do it again. Because from Essex's point of view, they may be saying, well, you know what, we wanted a first-class game, we wanted a 4-day game.
Absolutely.
You've changed your minds.
Absolutely.
So we're going to keep you in the field.
Essex have every right to keep on batting for the next 2 sessions. Totally within their rights. But again, it's about... Again, I'm putting the question, is it about India getting their preparation in line, or is it about Essex batting on? It's a fine line.
Sharma into a tall action, and Nijar goes onto the back foot and defends. The end of the over, Essex 354 for 8, Nijar has 25, and Kushi has 13. Who's that doing the kick? Is that Ravi Jadeja showing his football skills? He must be on 10, 12, 15 kicks. Still going.
KL Rahul.
KL Rahul, is it?
Yes.
And eventually the ball goes down. He takes off his hat and salutes the crowd. It's probably the most entertainment we've had since lunch.
KL Rahul is bored as well.
Do the India team play football in their warm-ups in the way that the England team do?
They do. Actually, it's more like England playing like the Indians do.
Really? Okay, yeah. Is there any footballing talent in this India team?
We'll come back to that.
Shami, shuffling approach into Feroz Kushi, who's cutting and getting absolutely nothing but fresh air.
There is quite a bit of footballing talent. MS Dhoni, Virat Kohli, ardent football fans.
Really?
Virat Kohli actually plays with a proper pair of cleats.
What? That's how seriously he takes it in the warm-up?
That's how seriously he takes it. He actually wears cleats to play warm-up football. So.
Well, the England team take their football very seriously. Goalkeeper gloves, the referee, and all sorts. Penalty shootouts.
You would expect that. Are they good at penalties?
Shami in and Feroz Kushi defends. Are they good at penalties? I saw a penalty shootout on the TV where most of the penalties were missed or saved. So no.
Joe Root was discussing a penalty that he took while the World Cup was on during the ODI series. Said it should have been given under VAR.
But maybe if the Indians are so keen, maybe there's a challenge to be had there, an India versus England penalty shootout at some point over the next 6 weeks.
I think they're pretty busy with 5-day of cricket. Let's leave them to that. It's pretty hot, isn't it?
Shami, he scuttles in short strides like someone's tied his shoelaces together. That beats Feroz Kushi. A short delivery that just moves away from the right-hander. Score remains 354 for 8. Yeah, I know MS Dhoni is a big goalkeeper. Was he at one point?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Very young, though. One of his coaches thought that he'll make a good wicket keeper. He was right.
Temperature at Chelmsford just climbs again. Sunshine comes in through the commentary box window. Shami running in towards us outside the off stump, and Kushi, just like Essex have been since the resumption after lunch, very watchful, leaves the ball alone into the gloves of Dinesh Karthik. I thought this morning that it was just a degree or two cooler than it had been yesterday.
Was, yeah, probably because of the rain.
Yeah, now I'm not so sure. The temperature's cranking up again. The blue table on which our commentary equipment is placed is warming up, getting close to the hot plate temperature. Shami pumps his arms, and that's kept a little bit low. Kushi does well to keep that out, actually. An outside edge goes towards Shikhar Dhawan at second slip.
Talking of MS Dhoni and goalkeeping, so saw him make a very un-wicket keeper like move. I think it was Sri Lanka or South Africa. I'm not sure, but I saw him a couple of times do that. So what he does is, and obviously our listeners can't see me, but he raises one of his legs if the batsman just flicks off his pads, so that the ball hits his leg and is stopped, doesn't run down to third man or fine leg. He's done that twice. I've seen him do it twice and been successful.
Shami with the final delivery of the over, and Kushi defends with a prod. It goes to point. There's no run. That's a maiden. Essex are 354 for 8. Aaron Nijar has 25. Feroz Kushi has 13. They are responding to India's 395. James Foster for 42. Matt Coles without scoring, and Paul Walter for 75. The men out today. Essex resumed on 237 for 5. And we are now well into the afternoon session, and the home side continue to frustrate the tourists.
It'll be Ishant Sharma once again. Let's see who's on the field for India. Two floppy hats. I think that's one of them is Jadeja now. I think Hardik Pandya has gone off. Yeah, that's Jadeja. Rahul in the floppy hats. We have Rahane at gully. Virat Kohli talking to Ishant Sharma at mid-off. Kuldeep Yadav at mid-on.
I get the other argument is to say about going back to the debate of Essex India and Essex's decision to keep batting. They could also say, if you wanted us out, why is
Bowl us out.
Why is Kuldeep Yadav only bowled 4 overs? Why is Ravi Jadeja only bowled 2, or Ashwin only appeared for a handful? And Paul Walter was dropped as well, wasn't he?
Yes, on 29 of Shami. Dinesh Karthik dropped him.
Leg slip and a short square leg for Nijjar. As Sharma's in, that's shortish and outside the off stump, and Nijjar raises everything out of the way. The ball goes through to Dinesh Karthik. 2 slips, point cover. Virat Kohli with his left hand on his hip at mid-off. The short, boyish looking figure of Kuldeep Yadav at mid-on having a chat with the umpire. Those 2 leg side catchers, and then
Shardul and Rahane.
And then Mohammed Shami way down there in the distance in front of a white block of flats at long leg, absolutely mobbed by India fans. He's signing autographs. I dare say there's the odd selfie going on in there as well. He's getting pats on the back from those spectators, and now he walks in as Ishant Sharma bowls to Nijjar, another short ball, and Nijjar's got all day long to duck underneath it and let it fly harmlessly towards the wicketkeeper.
I'm not sure if Ishant should be bowling to tail-enders right now. If you really want to get them out, you need to put in fuller deliveries, and I think Umesh and Shami are better suited in that sense. Ishant has more of a stock back of length delivery, which he uses time and again.
Virat Kohli at mid-off, he's got a white towel just poking out the waistband at the front of his trousers. He throws the ball, underarms it to Ishant, and then he stands with his arms folded behind his back. And now the fast bowler is in, and he delivers the ball, and Nijjar's trying to cut a wide delivery but gets nothing on it. Through to Dinesh Karthik. Score remains 354 for 8. We've seen precious little bat on ball in this afternoon session. If the ball's not been left alone or ducked, there's been a lot of playing and missing too.
I think that's Shardul Thakur who's warming up now, so maybe he's due for a spell.
If India do choose 2 spinners at Edgbaston next week, and we assume that Hardik Pandya plays as the all-rounder, who are the 2 pace bowlers?
Your questions shift from session to change from session to session.
I wonder if even Virat Kohli knows yet. Ishant's bouncy hairy bowls. It's outside the off stump, and Nijjar once more leaves alone.
I'm sure Virat Kohli knows what shape he wants to give to his playing 11.
If the game was being played tomorrow,
Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Shami. And I think that should be the combination for 1st August as well. Thing is, with all his experience, do you really want to bench Ishant Sharma?
Who's done well in England before as well.
Yes, he has. And he's your most senior bowler, most experienced.
He's got tight bandages on both elbows and heels kicking up towards his backside as he bowls, and it's well down the leg side, and Aaron Nijjar steps inside and is not interested in playing. Stalemate at the moment, really. Essex, the score not moving anywhere. But India not looking like taking a wicket. Remains 354 for 8.
But in this game, if you can just define it, I think Ishant Sharma has been wayward at best. Yes, his figures are 3 for 59, second best figures after Umesh Yadav, but again, in terms of his line and length, I think he's been a tad wayward.
Cloud just drifts across the sunshine, just blessed relief for a moment or two. No great breeze though coming our way or cooling the players. Sharma bowls to Nijjar, that's well outside the off stump and left alone, and at the moment Ishant Sharma not really asking many questions of the Essex batting lineup, this Essex tail end. 354 for 8 at the end of the over. Nijjar has 25, Feroz Kushi has 13, and Essex are 41 runs behind.
For me, Umesh Yadav is a shoe-in, is a definite shoe-in, because he is India's most improved bowler across formats in the last 1.5 seasons. He should have played in South Africa. He was benched for a long duration. The Indian team management decided early that they wanted to surprise South Africa by using Jasprit Bumrah, and he was fairly successful because the ball seams a lot in South Africa. Here it's a bit different. Umesh Yadav, even at his pace, can get the ball to move, and he's shown us in this game by taking those 4 wickets how he can do that, really. So for me, he has to be a shoe-in for the first test. The other, again, it's between Shami and Ishant, really.
Well, there's a change in the bowling at the far end, the Hayes close end. Here comes Shardul Thakur. That's outside Feroz Kushi's off stump, and as we've seen so often in this afternoon session, the ball is left alone.
Between Shami, if let's say if Umesh Yadav is one of the spots, and if India do play just the 2 fast bowlers, then between Shami and Ishant, again, just based on this game, I would pick Shami, because he probably hasn't got the wickets. He's looked penetrative though.
The nature of how gentle this game is at the moment. One of the India staff has just thrown a drink to Ishant Sharma at mid-on, and Sharma's put it in his pocket. Thakur bowls. It's outside the off stump. Feroz Kushi goes onto the back foot and angles it towards third man for the first run in quite a long time. 355 for 8. Kushi moves on to 14. Sharma, Ishanti just removes that orange, luminous orange drink from the pouch, the left pouch in his pocket. He's taking a good gulp as he stands at mid-off for the left-hander. If that drink will remain out there for the remainder of the over, the member of the India staff with a dark top that's got orange sleeves is still loitering by the long-off fence in the shadows. Field changes for the left-hander. 2 slips, point, cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, a leg gully and a long leg. Thakur is in now, and there's an edge, and that'll probably be 4. There's a chase for the Kuldeep Yadav at point, but he's not going to get there. So Aaron Nijar picks up another boundary just by angling the face, by angling the ball behind square on the offside. Essex move on to 359 for 8. Aaron Nijar has 29.
This partnership starting to frustrate India now.
The last wicket fell at 336, so the 9th wicket has now added 23, and they haven't even added them particularly quickly. It's just been a drip, drip, drip of frustration for India. Although their spirits look pretty high, they're still having a good giggle and a good chat in the slip cordon. They're not the ones doing the running around though. Shardul Thakur, shortish figure, bowls to Nijar, who defends from the crease with a straight bat.
Yes, Ajinkya Rahane and Gully happily chatting with Dinesh Karthik, Pujara, Dhawan. They look happy. They look quite calm.
Easy being a batsman, isn't it?
Or slip fielder.
Or a slip. Well, that's it. The slip fielders tend to be batsmen.
Yeah. Unless you're James Anderson.
Yeah, but you know, you don't have to stand there in the outfield. You don't have to run miles bowling fast. What a doddle. Thakur bowls to Nijar, inside edge onto the pads. India bowler and fielders throw their hands into the air, and there's no run.
India have bowled a tad too short to these 2 batsmen. There's no denying that. The leg gully has been in place ever since the break, and leg gully, leg slip, it's been a differentiation. It's been that sort of differentiation, really.
Shardul Thakur's final delivery of the over, in now, right arm over, bowls down the leg side, gets nothing, no bat, pad or stump on the way through to Dinesh Karthik, and at the end of the over, Essex are 359 for 8. Aaron Nijar has 29, Feroz Kushi has 14. Chetan Narula to pick up the commentary, and he'll be joined by Paul Newton.
It looks like at that instant Essex have declared as the 2 batsmen are starting to walk off. We're just going to get confirmation before Paul joins us. 359 for 8, and yes, we can see the hand gesture from the Essex dressing room. So the news here is Essex have declared. Well, it's met with cheers from the Indian section of the crowd. Nijar is 29 not out, Kushi at 14 not out, and that is the end of the Essex innings. 359 for 8 from 94 overs. A word from Paul before we go through to the scores.
Thanks, Cheetah. And yes, well, 359 for 8 with Aaron Nijar 29 not out, and on debut for Rose Kushi 14 not out. An unbroken partnership of 23. It all means that India lead by 36 on first innings, and I would think for India now they would very much like to just get those who didn't score particularly in the first innings into a bit of form. So Brown made 11, Chopper 16, Wesley 57, Michael Pepper 68, and that's worth noting, he played very well. Patel 19, Foster 42, Walter 75, Matt Coles 0, and then the 2 not out batsmen that I have given you. 359 for 8 declared, and certainly Essex, I think, will be very pleased with that. There's very little in it, let's put it that way, on first innings. I think the fact the scoring rate had slowed to a crawl probably slightly prompted the Essex declaration. I think if the 2 not out batsmen had actually been putting back to ball, then they'd have said, well, they're not going to last long, but we'll see how many they get.
Yes, as Stefan just said, that it was sort of a stalemate. I thought India were bowling a little too short to these tail enders. Not too many wicket-taking deliveries, or not making them play too much. Yeah. I thought Ishant Sharma was bowling back of the length predominantly. Perhaps should have been Umesh Yadav and Mohammad Shami, if at all they were looking to take wickets. And in a way, this declaration should have come in as a bit of a boon. Looking at the 94 overs bowled by India, Mohammad Shami none for 68 from 21. Umesh Yadav, the most successful Indian bowler, 4 for 35 from 18, economy of 1.9, easily the best bowler on display. Ishant Sharma, 19 overs, 3 for 59. His economy was up past 4.5 at one stage yesterday. He's pulled it back down to 3.1, but again was, for most parts of his 19 overs, was wayward at best. Hardik Pandya, 12 overs, none for 54, bowled really well yesterday in his initial spell of 6 overs, but since then went for a few more runs, especially against Walter and Pepper. Thereafter, Shardul Thakur, well, a lot of workman-like qualities for him, 13 overs, 1 for 58. The big point for India, though, is just the 11 overs out of 94 for the spinners. Jadeja 2 overs, none for 17. Kuldeep Yadav none for 24 for 4. Jadeja going at 8.5 and over. Yadav and that's Kuldeep Yadav at 6 and over. Not much to judge from that for the Indian think tank, unless they have already made up their mind what they're going to do in Birmingham. Ashwin, though, well, we were told he was hit on his right hand yesterday and didn't take the field the entire day, didn't bat. But today he came in the morning session to bowl a bit. None for 21 from 5 overs with a maiden in there. I thought out of the 3 spinners he had the maximum control. So that's the Indian bowling card. What now for India? Who will bat? I think that's the big question. You look at their first innings and you look at Shikhar Dhawan, who's out for first ball. First ball duck, in fact. Cheteshwar Pujara, 1 run of 7 balls. Both of them struggled against the moving ball, as did Ajinkya Rahane. Although he stayed there for 47 balls, he was dropped on 4 not out. So these 3 batsmen are, they are in India's first team plans, or let's say the first test plans really are. So these 3 need to get some batting time, and so we'll have to wait and watch as to who are the Indian openers. Maybe in another 5 or so minutes we'll get to know. But Paul, good workout for Essex overall, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's nothing that crowds like to see more than youngsters emerging that many in the crowd, in some cases, haven't heard of before, and saying, oh, he's not a bad player. And although it's unwise to get carried away by performances in tour games, because there's nothing riding on them in terms of being in a league or a cup, and you need to be able to judge people in serious competition. But having said that, I felt this was actually quite competitive, much better than most tourist games I've seen, and equally, what was a lot better than in most tourist games was the actual performance from Essex's newcomers who haven't been used to playing in the side. Not one of them really looked out of his depth at all. So, as you say, Chetan, I think Essex will be pretty pleased with how it's gone, and it's not as if their first team have been carrying all before them this season, and I certainly feel that Essex could do with a little bit more competition for places. Paul Walter has definitely put a marker down here. Thought Matt Coles bowled beautifully in the first innings. He hasn't sort of been able to command a regular place. I think he acquitted himself well. Matt Quinn again bowled extremely well, so good news on that front. And we've seen Aaron Nijjar put up a reasonable performance with bat and ball. Didn't really have a lot of chance with the ball because, let's face it, the ball hasn't really been turning for any spinner on this pitch today. Just the odd one to turn maybe, but not very quickly, which is why the seamers have tended to dominate proceedings. And finally, of course, I didn't mention Michael Pepper, who batted at the best tempo of any Essex player yesterday. He was nearly a run a ball, so he can be very pleased with his day's work yesterday.
The thing is, we're just talking about who's going to come out to bat for India, and the scorecard shows Ashwin and Bumrah. Let me tell you whoever put that on the scorecard, that is not going to happen. That is not going to happen at all, especially with both of them carrying finger injuries. You don't want them facing, even if they did come out to bat or open the innings, you don't want them facing the new ball where their hands could get injured further.
I think the scoreboard operator has won a bet here. Someone said, I bet you didn't put these two names up to start with.
Or a better explanation is he just picked the two with alphabetical order and put them there. Ashwin was, Ashwin did come out every time a wicket fell in the first innings. So it's a repeat of the same. But I think Shikhar Dhawan definitely will come out to bat to open, and maybe we might just see Ajinkya Rahane or Cheteshwar Pujara, in fact, who's open on occasion for India when they've just gone in with one full-time opener. I mean, he has opened for India in the past. So again, in a practice game where the sun has been beating down on the pitch for 3 days now, or 2.5 days now, you would think there wouldn't be any problem sending Pujara out to open.
Of course, Shikhar Dhawan was actually hired by Essex to play in the T20 last year, and sadly only had one game before a rather unfortunate incident prompted him to leave rather abruptly. But he's a lovely player, and in that final one-day international he was going very well actually. Got into the 40s and then was run out. Ben Stokes, I think, with a magnificent bit of fielding doing for him, but a lovely stroke player.
Essex bowlers now warming up, starting to walk back into the dressing room, which is still waiting to see and get confirmation who are the Indian openers, as the umpires are starting to come down to make their way. Again, a bit of siren. I noticed one of the sirens when I was going to get some lunch yesterday, that it wasn't really an ambulance, it was a fire station wagon. A lot of fires because of the
absolutely
hot weather.
Right. Yes, one of my hobbies is watching steam trains, and of course this weather is absolutely not that for six, because reasonably enough the fire service has said, well, we can't be doing with any line side fires here, you never know how they're going to spread. So virtually everything is being hauled of the special trains by diesels at the moment. So it has had a lot of far-reaching consequences in various areas. Saddleworth Moor, I should say, which is an area up near Manchester, was ablaze. You know, a whole area of several square miles was on fire.
That was just was just before the T20 series.
That's right.
India's tour really started. It was big news while India were in Ireland, or just about to actually come over from Ireland for the English tour to begin. The umpires have made their way, and we also have two openers. One of them has an MRF bat, and that surely is Shikhar Dhawan. Just waiting to see who the other batsman is. Looks like KL Rahul. I'm not sure. We'll have to confirm it.
Yes, it's gone up on the
yes, it has gone up now. Yes, it's KL Rahul and Shikhar Dhawan, the other opening pairing that India have. So this is interesting, really. could be a straight shootout between Dhawan and Rahul for the openers spot for the first test. Murali Vijay, well, he was dropped on 6 not out in the first innings, but he did get a half century, spent a lot of time. Rahul batted in the middle order, got a half century as well, but with Vijay almost a shoe-in for the first test, you can just assume if India do opt for a full-time opening pair, it's going to be either Dhawan or Rahul accompanying him.
So Essex now just sorting themselves out in the field as the batsmen do a little bit of gardening. I think more than anything just to satisfy themselves that there isn't any hidden menace out there. I don't think there will be. It's always come across a pretty good wicket. For all the fact there was early movement on the first day, a lot of the greenness that was there initially has disappeared now under this relentless sun. I will say one thing, Stefan made allusion to the fact that it has got hotter without a shadow of a doubt since the morning session, and for the first time there's just an area to the west where the weather's coming from where you could imagine the forecast thunderstorms might be lurking. Worth noting that yesterday a place only 40 miles away from here as the crow flies, Cambridge, had quite a few downpours. So although we've been very lucky so far, there is a forecast that we might get some heavy thunderstorms in the course of this afternoon. Indeed, they suggested they could have arrived already.
3 slips in position as Matt Coles is handed the new ball from the Hayes end. It'll be KL Rahul, who's right now hunched on the crease, does some gardening work. We also have mid-on, mid-off. We have extra cover, backward point and mid-wicket in position, as well as a fine leg. So 3 slips, and we have Matt Coles running in with Rahul facing the first ball. Fuller on the off stump as he comes forward and prods it back towards extra cover, no run added.
Good right hand left hand opening partnership for India. I'm a great believer that if you've got the personnel to do it, the more of these right hand left hand partnerships you can have, the better. It incommodes the fielding and bowling side.
Coles once again on the top of his mark, running in, 3 slips waiting. Again Fuller on the off and middle. Rahul comes forward and pushes it back towards the bowler, no run added.
Well, Matt Coles, who bowled beautifully in all his spells really in the first innings, but particularly with the new ball, picked up 2 early wickets, and he's bang on the money again. First 2 deliveries very well directed. I think the difference will be, I don't think he'll enjoy the late movement that was his trademark on the first morning.
Once again then it's Coles to Rahul. This time just back of length on the off stump. Rahul goes back and defends it towards backward point.
And by this stage, 5 Live Sports Extra, who we thoroughly enjoyed joining us for most of the game hitherto, but they've now left this match, so you need to be on the BBC Essex online website to enjoy the commentary on the remainder of this game, which I suspect the sides might agree to finish around 5 o'clock.
Coles once again to Rahul, this time back of length on the off stump, and he trusts the bounce and let it go to the wicket keeper. So a sedate start from KL Rahul, who's watching the ball. He's been informed throughout the summer, had a splendid IPL for the Kings 11 Punjab, but his form alone couldn't get them through to the knockout stage. Carried it over to Ireland and England as well. He was disappointingly left out of the 3rd ODI. I thought it was a bit unfair.
Yeah,
but he was left out nevertheless. Coles once again to Rahul, this time too wide outside the off stump, back of length, was jagging back in, but too far off from the off stump for Rahul to show any interest in it whatsoever.
Yeah, he played beautifully in his knock in the first innings. I think it was 58 if I remember rightly. Indeed
yes.
It was, and he played some of the best shots that we saw. He's a wonderfully graceful player, played some superb shots, and India of course do have a good half dozen such batsmen who are very, very good to watch.
Coles at the top of his mark, running in, 3 slips in position. Again shaping away from the right-hander, who plants his front foot forward but doesn't play at an end of the over. It's a maiden to start off and India are yet to open their account in the second innings.
So Essex declared a quarter of an hour ago on 3:59 for 8, 36 behind, with Aaron Nijar on a dogged 29 not out, and Feroz Kushi on 14 not out. And certainly Essex can be very pleased at taking their 237 for 5 overnight. All the way on by a further 122 runs. Foster made 42. Paul Walter having a thoroughly good match here. 4 wickets with the ball, 75 top score with the bat. And now we're going to see Matt Quinn, who's had so much time off with stress fractures of the back, more than one, but hopefully back to, he wouldn't say yet full fitness, but they've allowed him to step up from a one-time restriction of 40 overs a week up to 80, and I think we will see more and more of him as the remainder of the season continues. And he's going to bowl the second over of this innings, the first from the river end.
He'll also have 3 slips in position. There'll also be a point fielder, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, and mid-wicket in position. There's also fine leg in play, as it'll be Shikhar Dhawan who will be facing for the first time in this second innings. Remember, he got out for a first ball duck in the first innings, so India will be hoping he can spend a little more time than that in the second innings at the crease. Quinn once again to Dhawan this time. Ooh, was there an edge? Was there an edge? We don't know yet. We'll have to wait for the umpire signal. No, just past the outside edge. It was back of length, rising delivery just across the stumps, and Shikhar Dhawan didn't really have much clue about it. Tried to dab at it, but just past his off stump. Even the keeper was taken aback in the way that shaped away from the batsman, and in between the gap between the keeper and the first slip, down for 4. So India opened their account with 4 byes. It's 4 for no loss.
Well, looked to all the world as if he'd edged that, and he certainly raised the bat toward it. Good delivery from Matt Quinn, getting a lot of away movement.
There's a snotter first up from Quinn. Dhawan once again facing 3 slips in waiting. Oh, this time again beaten up. This was coming in to Dhawan instead of going away. Pitched it a little further up. He came onto the front foot, but beaten as he tried to play at it. This time the keeper read it fine though, and no byes.
No, I mean, I think you've got it spot on. The batsman was expecting another ball moving away from him, and it cut back. So is it the 3-card trick here? Has Quinn got another trick up his sleeve for this third ball?
Which way this will move as Quinn runs into Shikhar Dhawan once again. Beaten again. Oh no, it's edged and taken. Shikhar Dhawan out for a duck. This time 3 balls. In fact, he's been bowled, was edged and his off stump knocked back. Then the ball went to second slip where it was not fielded very well. But the big news is Shikhar Dhawan out for a 3-ball duck. He's been bowled as India lose their first wicket.
Well, in answer to my question, has he got another trick up his sleeve? 3-card trick? Yes, very much so. You have to say that's brilliant bowling from Quinn, actually. The away mover that almost took the edge from the first ball, the one that surprised Dhawan with the second ball by coming back the opposite way, and then the third one, which I think pretty much kept straight on. And it has to be said that Shikhar Dhawan's foot movement there was fairly non-existent, and the ball somehow found her way through him and into the stumps. And India lose one of the very men they were most hoping would get a good hit here for a couple of hours, and he doesn't even survive the first over, because KL Rahul faced all the first over. So this over was Dhawan's only time at the crease, and he was out straight away in the first innings. He's pretty much out straight away in the second. So if, as you were saying, Chetan, that it was a toss-up between the 2 openers as to who would get the slot for the test match, you'd have to think that Rahul is a distance in front, having already made 58 in the first innings.
You know what? I'm not answering any more selection questions for the rest of the day. I'm done. This is just too much, and I think it's time that the Indian management takes stock and not a commentator sitting up here.
Of course, it's one of the penalties you pay, I think, Chetan, in that if you're one of the men who failed in the first innings, they say, oh, you get straight back in there, and of course you face probably the only 10 overs or so when the ball might be doing a bit, the new ball moving around. I'm pretty sure in an hour's time it won't be helping the bowler too much, but it certainly did there.
But then again, that is the opener's job, whether it's moving or not moving, whether he's playing in the subcontinent or he's playing away from home, and Shikhar Dhawan hasn't done himself any favours here. At the same time, I think he was also a bit confounded with the sort of movement that Quinn was able to generate on the first 2 balls. Got some sharp bounce. The one left him, and the second one came in.
Very good bowling.
Pretty much expecting nothing really there, and it was really a nothing shot, and it left all of us a little confounded as to what had happened. But now it's Cheteshwar Pujara who's also needing some time at the crease. 3 slips in waiting as Quinn to the right-handed Pujara, who shouldered his arms first up, short of length and rising outside the off stump.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if history repeats itself here. It has 50% from the point of view that both Shikhar Dhawan and Cheteshwar Pujara were out with only 5 runs on the board in the first innings. Well, here we've got 4 runs on the board, and those have come via 4 byes. Nothing off the bat yet, and nervous moments for Pujara.
Quinn on the top of his mark, 3 slips still waiting as he faces Quinn. This time stands tall on the crease, on the front foot, and just dabs it towards backward point and sets off for a quick single. Pujara off the mark then. It's 5 for 1.
Tom Wesley fielding there, captaining Essex in the absence of Ryan Tenduskarter, the club captain, who along with the likes of Ravi Bopara and Simon Harmer have sat this game out. Essex, who are set to be rejoined by Peter Siddle for the month of August, which means that when they're next in action on the 2nd of August, next Thursday, Peter Siddle is expected to play in both T20 and 4-day championship matches. The championship matches in August are at Taunton and at home to Hampshire here, and maybe he might even sneak his way into staying over long enough to play in the home game against Surrey at the very beginning of September.
Quinn to bowl to Rahul for the first time. Back of length on the off stump, he goes onto the front foot, defends it straight to the fielder at point, and that is no run. So after 2 overs, it's 5 for 1. India, not the best of starts, especially if you consider that Shikhar Dhawan needed to spend some more time at the crease. He's faced a sum total of 4 balls in this match. Not the best practice games for him, and he's not scored a single run. Perhaps he's made things a little easier for the Indian team management as they head for the first test in Birmingham in August 1. We won't know that until we reach Edgbaston.
So it'll be Matt Coles to bowl to Cheteshwar Pujara initially. 3 slips, and we've got backward point, extra cover mid-off, mid-on mid-wicket long leg, completing the field. The sun's gone in, and as I was mentioning 10 minutes ago, for the first time you could just imagine that there may be the forecast thunderstorms, not necessarily heading straight our way, but not that far away in the vicinity, as Coles is in and bowls, and a little bit edgily, but runs here may just be prevented from going over the boundary towards third man, and 4 runs it is out of our sight. The ball, once it starts gathering momentum down the hill, there's no stopping it, and the score goes up to 9 for 1, and 7 rejoins us.
It almost feels now that the rest of the day's play is taking place solely for the benefit of Cheteshwar Pujara. That all the rest of the India top order has got runs. Shikhar Dhawan, the man who needed practice, is out. It's like we're all here just so Pujara can have a bat.
I'm sure he appreciates it as Coles is in, bowls to him, and in fact it's to Rahul. No, it isn't. It is Pujara. My apologies. And this ball is just played defensively into the offside. So India led by 36 runs on first innings, 395. Essex declared at 359 for 8, and India second dig, now 45 in front on 9 for 1.
They are very similar looking at the crease, Pujara and Rahul.
Yeah, they are indeed. As Coles is in, bowls, and this is a lead by Pujara, taken by Michael Pepper. Foster's only appearance as wicket-keeper in the match was on the very first morning, and great sight he made as well. No doubt in my mind he's well up to playing another year, but I don't think he will somehow. I think we probably are seeing him in his final days, and what a wonderful player he has been for Essex. Here comes Coles again. Got naught with the bat this morning, out second ball. And that goes down leg side, 9 for 1.
Yeah, James Foster's got the right idea in this match. He's kept wicket for one session, he's had a bat, and that is about it.
Yes, I read he's playing this weekend in some sort of triangular tournament somewhere, and international sort of thing. I think I read that Nepal were one of the teams.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, it's a T20 triangular tournament at Lords between Nepal, the Netherlands, and the MCC, I think.
That's right. Presumably Foster playing for the MCC as this next ball is played back down the pitch. And of course, we saw Roland Lefebvre up in the box the other day in charge of the junior Netherlands sides. Brought a lot of people of schoolboy age along with him, and the Netherlands very much in evidence generally, and that's one of the reasons why.
I bet if James Foster got told you can carry on playing first class cricket, but you only have to keep for one session a day, and then you can just bat.
Yes, he'd think it was a good deal. Coles is in and bowls, and this goes through outside off stump. Having said that, he's a glutton for punishment, and would if he could get another year's contract, I'm sure he'd happily wicket keep all day long. But he has had it nicely here, you're quite right. The over has ended, no run off the last ball. It's 9 for 1 with Shikhar Dhawan out third ball this time, and he was beaten comprehensively the first two, let alone the third. Brilliant bowling from Matt Quinn. Unhappy match for Shikhar Dhawan, who got 2 ducks, one a golden duck and the other a bronze duck, if we could put it that way, a brazen duck. And it's 5 runs on the board to to Pujara. Rahul yet to get off the mark. 9 for 1 in 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much attention England pay to these warm-up games, but one thing they will definitely notice, if Shikhar Dhawan does play at Edgbaston next week, they will know that he is arriving there for that first test match having faced only 4 deliveries from a red ball and been out to them twice.
Yes, very, very well put. As here's Matt Quinn, river end bowl, slightly slower ball, albeit it is the first ball of the over. You can say slower than what? Well, slower than his normal pace, and it's watched very carefully by KL Rahul and just played defensively for no run into the offside.
And it does present an opportunity for KL Rahul now. You'd like to think that, another score for him, and he is really putting pressure on both Dhawan and Pujara, who himself only has 6 runs, albeit he's at the crease at the moment.
Quinn bowls to him, sufficiently outside off stump for Rahul to raise his bat and wave it through to Michael Pepper with the gloves. 9 for 1.
I say 6 runs, he scored 1 of them in the first innings. He's got 5 so far here today. But it's a boost for England that India have got questions over their top order.
Yes, of course Pujara has at least had a good spell with Yorkshire, or I say a good spell, he didn't actually...
Well, he's had a spell.
Yes, exactly, we won't say any more as Quinn's in. Bowls to Rahul, down leg side, and rather missed out on that, Rahul, because there's an enormous gap on the leg side boundary. He only really needed to get a reasonable amount of bat, and that would have disappeared. Anywhere square would have brought him 4, but he misses it. It's taken by Michael Pepper, and the score remains at 9 for 1.
There's more people weighing in to the Adil Rashid debate. See that I was just listening to BBC Radio 5 Live. Sir Ian Botham has defended Rashid today.
Quinn bowls, good delivery, kept a bit low but very well played, all the right technique, left foot well forward if the ball's keeping low, head right over the ball and back to the bowler. From KL Rahul, yet to get off the mark but looking confident. 9 for 1.
I think from all the tweets and all the comments that I've seen on the Rashid situation, I think it can be summed up in quite simple terms, and I'll tell you what I think after this delivery,
which is just about to be bowled by Quinn, who comes in to Rahul, and that's so wide that I wouldn't grumble if that was actually given a wide, but it was just inside the tram lines. No run.
That it's not Rashid's fault that England wanted him to play, and if you're in his position and you want to accept the call, you're within your rights to do so. But if he did have ambitions to play in that first test match, then he probably should have played for Yorkshire in the Roses match. That seems to be what a lot of people have said about it.
I think you've made a very fair point. One I would just add to that, which I mentioned this morning, but my microphone wasn't, I hadn't turned it up, it was my fault. Here's Quinn and bowls, and it's played back to the bowler, is simply, you probably heard me saying earlier, Stefan, end of the over here, 9 for 1. India leading overall by 45. This business that in the last championship game in 2016, when Yorkshire stood to win their 3rd title in a row, he opted out and just said, I'm too tired, which I thought was poor.
Yeah, that seems to be where maybe the bad blood between Rashid and Yorkshire began, compounded by Rashid's decision to only play limited overs cricket this summer. It's a decision that came reasonably late. It was in February, and by that point Yorkshire may have said, well, have we got time to find another spin bowler who can play in the championship for us? But that situation had almost all sorted itself out, and then was revived by the talk of Rashid playing in the Test match and then turning down the opportunity to play in the Roses match.
Coles is in, bowls, and the ball is pushed into the offside. There's no run, 9 for 1. But your overall point is quite right, that it's not actually the player's own fault that he's been picked for England. So if you are going to really have a go at anyone, if you feel very strongly about it, then you have to point the finger at the England selectors. And there is an argument that says, well, it's a slap in the face for county cricket.
Yeah, and they've done their bit to put that fire out by saying, look, this will not happen again.
And Coles is in, bowls, and goes through outside off stump, 9 for 1.
If you're Ed Smith, this is only the 3rd Test match squad that you've picked. You're still relatively new to the job, on trial almost.
Yeah.
And so it is his job to pick the best team that he thinks England have got to win a Test match. It's almost not his concern if he's upsetting a county.
No, and he's the kind of man who won't be too worried if he does upset someone.
But what he has said is, look, I know this isn't ideal and it won't happen again.
Coles is in. Bowls, and this is a lead by Pujara.
He said if a player after this summer and this winter wants to play for England, then they have to be playing red ball cricket. They have to be willing to play red ball cricket. They have to have that sort of contract.
Let me just add, in Ed Smith's defence as well, that he pretty much, I fancy, was responsible for pulling Jos Buttler back into Test match reckoning, where I felt he'd been discarded very prematurely, and how well he's done since he came back. Coles is in and bowls, and this ball goes through. It's a superb delivery from Coles, but just fails to take the edge, but very well bowled, 9 for 1. And for me, I felt that the previous selection panel wrote Buttler off far too easily. He never said he wanted to play white ball cricket only. He's underlined how enthusiastic he is to play red ball cricket, and he really has been the England batsman of the summer in many ways in all forms of the game. So credit to Ed Smith there, and I think because he's new, he's empowered to take bold decisions that perhaps the previous panel wouldn't have done. Coles is in and bowls, and that's a leave outside off stump.
Yeah, Ed Smith, very much his own man. He won't worry too much what other people think. He was like that when he was a player too. He didn't mind rubbing people up the wrong way, and you think he's made quite a good appointment as well. It seems like an excellent decision to have James Taylor as his right hand man.
Absolutely, yeah, should be a good team, and I think whoever is in charge should be his own man, as Coles is in. Bowls, and that's a very wide delivery indeed. It goes even wider, so that is left by Pujara. Maiden over from Coles, and we have now had 5 overs of India's second innings, leading by 36 on first after Essex declared 359 for 8. They have lost Shikhar Dhawan, who lasted 3 balls this time, beaten by the 2 that didn't get him out, beaten by the 1 that did. Excellent bowling from Matt Quinn, as he was eventually bowled for 0. 9 for 1 with 5 to Pujara, and KL Rahul, who's looked thoroughly confident but is yet to get off the mark.
But it's just another subplot as well, isn't it, to the Test series, which should be a really excellent, exciting, hard-fought series over the next 6 weeks or so. And it just reminds you as well that it's England's 1000th Test at Edgbaston next week. And there's always a subplot, isn't there?
Yeah.
The Test matches isn't just a Test match isn't just about the scores that the two teams make or the individual performances or anything like that. You know, in a few years' time, we'll probably look back at this first Test, and yeah, we might remember the scores, but we'll also remember, oh, that was the one where they picked Adil Rashid and there was all the fuss about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking a very tasty series to anticipate as Quinn is in bowls, and that goes down leg side, and score remaining at 9-1. There was an appeal or two going there, wondering if Rahul had just tickled that one through to be strangled by the keeper, but not so. But yeah, I mean, I would say that there's more anticipation about this series than for any series other than Ashes series in recent times.
I think it's safe to assume that Virat Kohli isn't going to be batting anytime soon. He's down there in front of the pavilion with his training gear on.
As Quinn is in bowls, good delivery, well played by Rahul, down to mid-off, no run.
He's having some pictures taken with some spectators sitting outside the pavilion. It looks like he's just got his flip-flops on. He's just gathered a bit of gear that was drying in the sunshine. He's saying hello to the spectators that are either side of the steps leading up to the dressing rooms.
And it's fair to say that to many an Indian cricket supporter, and there are many Indian cricket supporters, he is virtually God. You know, he's godlike and fantastic player. Here comes Quinn in and bowls, and that's a leave outside off stump, 9-1. And of course there was the his little dance manoeuvres as he came out after lunch to us. Do they call it Bangla, the music?
Bhangra.
Bhangra, thank you, yes, Bhangra. Knew I wasn't quite right. Very nice it was too. We've been entertained in the intervals by the Bhangra bands. Kohli entered into the spirit of it, as he has just now, coming down and parading in front of the pavilion. Quinn, meanwhile, is on his way back into bowl to Rahul, still not off the mark. And that's taken him on the pad. They'll get a leg by, but Rahul still to get off the mark. He's now faced 17 deliveries. That won't worry him though. He looks a very composed man. And the score goes up to 10-1 in the 6th over.
I always wonder what it must be like to be Virat Kohli. That you basically can't go anywhere in public without anyone asking for an autograph or a picture. Obviously it's easier for him when he's outside of India. I mean, imagine what it must be like when he's at home. Does he ever get any peace?
I would think not. Of course, Sachin Tendulkar could tell a story or two on that point as Quinn is in. This one takes Pujara on the pads. Well bowled, an off-cutter from Quinn. Oh dear, and the batsman Rahul has been struck by the throw purely accidentally as he ran through there. They get a single, take the score to 11-1. And Pujara will go up to, but he won't, it was a leg by. Don't think Rahul is seriously injured at all. He seems quite happy.
It's quite a way to pick up an injury though, isn't it?
Yeah.
When a throw from a fielder, was that Shane Snater at put it?
Yes, I think you're right. Now, I've only seen him play once before, but it looks so like him that I think it is him.
And the throw came in on the bounce, and it just bounced nicely, depending on which way you look at it, to pin KL Rahul in the ribs.
Shane Snater played in a championship match at Southampton and then bowled in a 50 overs game here. I'll come back to that as Quinn is in and bowls, and it's played straight to mid-wicket and there's no run. End of the over, 6 gone, 11-1. Just to finish that story, for 2 overs he couldn't land the ball on the cut strip, and Ryan Tendulkar thought we'll just give him one more, and he ended up with 5 for 60. Just checking to see if Cheatham would like to come back in. Yep, and so he will join Stephen Shemmelt.
Thanks, Paul. So there's 40 minutes to go until tea on the third and final day of this tour match between Essex and India at Chelmsford. A little bit earlier on, Essex declared their first innings on 359 for 8. That was 36 runs behind, allowing India to bat for the final half of this third day. Shikhar Dhawan gone for a duck. He lasted only 3 deliveries. He was gone for a golden duck in the first innings. He'll go into that first test with no runs in red ball cricket to his name in England this summer. India 11-1 as Matt Coles is bowling to Cheteshwar Pujara, who wants a single on the offside, but it's not there. Wonderful scene at Chelmsford. Sun is shining as it has done for most of these 3 days. Incredibly hot and dry conditions, mercifully just a little bit of a cool breeze now swirling around the ground and in through our commentary box window. Lovely atmosphere, plenty of spectators in. This morning in Chelmsford City Centre you could see spectators and fans walking towards the ground, anticipating a good day's cricket as Cole is outside the off stump and Pujara leaves alone on the front foot. Hospitality tents are full. There's been a good atmosphere around the ground. Cheers, particularly from our right in the Tom Pearce stand. The India players have embraced the local fans, and Chelmsford is pretty full on this Friday, and maybe a few people have taken a 3-day weekend to enjoy the hospitality as the burly figure of Matt Coles comes in towards us from the Hayes close end. That's straight to Pujara, who clips to mid-on, and he takes a single, and the score moves on to 12 for 1, and it's good afternoon to Chetan Narula.
You finally got the seat in the shade.
I have. It's lovely. And also, I get a bit more of the fan from that's in the back corner of our commentary box. That's like the oven, the seat that you're in at the moment.
Now you know why I was...
It's about gas mark 1, that is.
Now you know why I was trying to get
You're
that
always
seat.
angling for this seat. KL Rahul, the way that I said before that these two batsmen look very similar at the crease. One way to distinguish them is that Pujara has a battered old arm guard on his left front arm, and Rahul is not wearing an arm guard. As Coles is in, that's a short delivery. Rahul drops to a knee to duck out of the way and let it pass harmlessly over his head. There are 2 deliveries of the over remaining. 3 slips, point cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket and a long leg. The slips are Niger, Walter and Rishi Patel. Niger has his first slip. He's hands on his knees and a floppy sunat on his head as Coles, fair-haired, bowls to Rahul, who very daintily plays into the offside and then holds up his bat to tell Pujara there's no run available.
It's a bit of personal preference, isn't it, in terms of whether the batsmen have that arm guard on or not?
I think often they wear one if they've been hit there before. It's one of those things that you don't wear until you've taken a blow. Pujara leaning on his bat at the non-striker's end. The bat has a red handle. He's got his right foot or his right knee folded over his left as Coles is in and bowls to Rahul, who crabs across the crease and drops the ball at his feet. There's no run. It's the end of the over. India are 12 for 1. They lead by 48 runs. KL Rahul still to score. He's faced 21 deliveries. Che Pujara has 6 from 18.
Wouldn't you rather wear it and not need it, and rather than get hit or need it after you've been hit?
Well, I know of some captains who are seriously angered when bowlers don't wear arm guards and then they get hit.
Oh yes.
And then can't bowl. Graham Smith, for one, he was always really insistent that his bowlers wore arm guards. He said, I don't mind if you don't score any runs, but I do mind if you're injured and can't bowl.
And it was a very interesting debate in South Africa earlier this year when short balls were used against the tail-enders.
Tall figure of Matt Quinn running away from us. Pujara turns this off his pads towards deep square leg. The long leg fielder's coming round and won't get there. It trickles over the boundary rope to cheers from our right hand side. So Pujara picks up a boundary and India move on to 16 for 1.
Pujara needs this runs more than ever. He needs these runs. Funnily enough, Rahul hasn't opened his scoring yet. 21 balls he's faced. But again, coming back to that debate, January, I think it was at Cape Town, and Cheteshwar Pujara was asked this question about this unspoken code between fast bowlers that you don't bowl short to each other. And they broke it.
Quinn has his elbows jutting out. He bowls to Pujara, who jumps into a leave. And the ball goes through to the black wicket-keeping gloves of Michael Pepper. Third slip, Paul Walter is wheeling his arms around, readying himself to bowl his left arm pace.
And while Rabada was answering questions for South Africa, it was Pujara who was answering questions for India, and his opinion was, it's just a tactic to get wickets. As long as you're getting wickets, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Quinn has 94 on his back. Blonde-haired, he bowls to Pujara, short delivery, and Pujara sways out of the way of the ball. If you ever seen The Matrix, Pujara's doing a Matrix-style sway out of the way, just watching the red leather pass his eyes and into the gloves of Michael Pepper.
I think the best was Rishi Patel, if you put it like that, because this one was quite wide, The one Patel got actually was on the middle stump, and it was almost like he had to suck in his tummy and make way for the ball to go.
Quinn once more. He's got flashes of blue on his bowling boots, and Pujara drops the ball at his feet. He wants a single. KL Rahul turns it down. Score remains 16 for 1. Away to our left, there are cream buildings, blocks of flats that have got metal blue balconies, and in the middle of the three buildings, on the top tier, a couple of people are enjoying the cricket, watching from their balcony. I always wonder with those flats how much more expensive it is to buy a flat with a view of the cricket than one that hasn't got a view of the ground. Quinn bowls, short ball that Pujara almost gloves through to Michael Pepper. That was quicker from Quinn, it straighter, and whereas before Pujara was swaying out of the way with ease, this time he really had to arc his back as if he was limboing underneath the ball, and fortunate not to get anything on it as it went through to the keeper.
Now that was Matrix style. That was proper Matrix style, you know, you're just coming forward, then you realize you want to go back. It's almost like dodging 2 bullets at a time, but it was just a red cherry.
What do they call it? The bending the space-time continuum.
But then he would be travelling the subcontinent and playing there.
True. Quinn in and bowls, that's outside the off stump, and Pujara leaves alone. End of the over. India 16 for 1. Pujara has 10 from 24 deliveries. KL Rahul still to score.
I think it depends on what ground it is, really. I mean, yes, it is always going to be expensive if you're overlooking the cricket. I mean, I assume they have T20 action at this ground, and when you have the blast or the infamous 100-ball cricket that is about to take over English cricket, or even T20 or T10, in fact, in the domestic circuit. I think that's it might just drive the price up. But then again, if you have those buildings which are overlooking Lords, or those flats that are looking into the Wankhede in Mumbai.
Oh yeah.
So you don't have to buy a ticket for the World Cup final in 2011. I thought that was pretty special. You could just sit in your balcony or look out your window, and you get to see MS Dhoni hit that 6 from your living room. That's pretty expensive.
I'll ask you a question about cricket grounds in India.
Sure.
After this delivery from Matt Coles, new over from the Hayes close end, Coles pumps his arms towards KL Rahul and bowls, and Rahul hooks for 4. So Rahul off the mark from the 22nd delivery, faces pretty much a long hop from Matt Coles, and KL Rahul swivels on the pull shot or hook shot to pick up 4, 20 for 1. In India, are the cricket grounds, are they either big stadiums or nothing at all? What I'm asking is, this is, I'd almost call this a boutique size ground.
Yes.
Would you get something like this in India where there's a smattering of seating all the way around? Or is it going to be a big old stadium or nothing at all?
First of all, that was a brilliant shot from KL Rahul. I mean, if you had to get off the mark, you picked that shot after 21 balls. Timed really well, just showed the sort of form he is in. A long hop and it will be dispatched.
Paul Walter loosens his arms and goes down at second slip. Rahul defends Coles from the crease.
I think you would get a few domestic grounds like this where not seats or pop-up stands, really. No, you won't find them. You would find some grass banks. I think we have one in Kerala, one in Andhra Pradesh, in Noida, which is on the outskirts of Delhi. Small grounds like this, yes, with a little rough outfield, if I can say that silently. No, but you will get them with a little few grass banks, a few seats, a few stands, something like that, but they won't be used for high-profile cricket.
Coles again as a siren goes by in the distance. Rahul forces off the back foot to the fielder at cover, and there's no run. Score remains 20 for 1. Later on 5 Live Sports Extra, at the conclusion of the Tour de France, there'll be commentary on both the Kia Super League and the Vitality Blast. 2 games from Headingley today. Matt Coles, number 1 on his back. He walks back towards the side screen. He's got his back to the white sheet, and now he hustles in to KL Rahul, who leaves outside the off stump with confidence, even though the delivery was just threatening to angle back in towards the off stump.
some of the bigger stadiums in India, bang in the middle of cities. You talk about Eden Gardens, which seats 60 to 70,000 people, bang in the middle of Kolkata. Wankhede again, 42,000, bang in the middle of Mumbai. The Firozshah Kotla, another 35,000 seater in the middle of Delhi, or the Chinnaswamy in Bengaluru, or the Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai.
Coles bowls to Rahul. Very solid forward defensive stroke from KL Rahul, who taps his bat over the crease.
But there's also a rising trend in India about making stadiums which are just away from the city a bit. You have Nagpur as a prime example. You have Pune, Rajkot. They are a bit far from the city. You have to take the highway. There'll be special buses arranged. Nagpur is a prime example of this because that stadium was one of the first built outside the city.
Coles to complete the over. He bowls now to Rahul. That's outside the off stump. Left alone with a flourish by KL Rahul. End of the over. India 20 for 1. KL Rahul has 4. Pujara has 10. India, who began this second innings with a lead of 36, they've now stretched that to 56. Earlier on, Essex declared 359 for 8, giving up a first innings deficit. It's probably a good thing for India that they did, because at that point it didn't look like India were going to work their way through the Essex tail, and instead the hosts showed some hospitality and they allowed the tourists to bat. The 1 wicket to fall, that of Shikhar Dhawan, bowled by Matt Quinn without scoring. 2 ducks in this game for Shikhar Dhawan.
2011 was the first time I went to Nagpur, to the cricket ground, which was built on the highway, and there was just nothing there on either sides of the highway, or the expressway as you call it here, and it was just in the wilderness really. And when I went there last year, that is 2017, for the Sri Lanka test, and everything had changed. You have so many residential complexes and housing complexes coming up on either sides of the expressway. You had a lot more life this time around, I would say.
Changing the bowling, the tall blonde-haired figure of Paul Walter is going to bowl his left arm over from the river end beneath us. He's currently standing on the dusty outfield, and now he sets off running away into Pujara. 2 slips. Pujara just turns the ball into the onside, and there's no run. Walter, who earlier on today made 75, he was dropped on 29 by wicketkeeper Dinesh Karthik off the bowling of Mohammad Shami. He went on to play some lovely strokes, dishing out some pretty brutal treatment to the left arm wrist spin of Kuldeep Yadav. And as Walter, who dominated the morning session with the bat, now he's got red streaks on both sides of his trousers, and he ambles in towards Pujara. A loopy bouncer is ducked underneath by the India number 3. Away to the left at a sort of deepish extra cover position, there's a seagull just taken flight. A grey pigeon remains on the ground, ambling around the dusty surface. Walter receives the ball back from the blue-capped captain Tom Wesley at mid-on, and Walter side to side approach. It's down the leg side, and Pujara will pick up 4 somethings. Does that come off the pad or the bat? 4 runs to Pujara, turned around the corner to a very fine leg, and ball rattles into the boundary rope underneath the shadow of the sycamore tree. India move on to 24 for 1. Pujara has 14.
Just a final comment on that stadium issue. I think it's representative of how the Indian society is growing, really, because that's where the major growth spurt is for India now.
Walters in and bowls. It's a short delivery that Pujara pushes into the offside, and there's no run. 2 deliveries of Walters, first over remaining. He's walking back towards us now. If he wanted to, he could wave through the commentary box window. He won't though. He's got his shirt untucked. He's so tall that his trousers are almost a little bit short, almost flapping around his ankles as he runs in and bowls to Pujara, who's defending. For a moment it looked like it might be an inside edge heading towards the stumps, but instead it trickles towards square leg, and there's no run. Just like yesterday, to our right at the back of the Tom Pearce stand, there's a couple of chaps underneath a very colourful umbrella. The umbrella is up again today, but it's battling against the wind at the moment. It's the breeziest conditions of the match. Our kit in the commentary box has been blown around as Walter bowls, as Pujara's pulling just out of reach of Michael Pepper down the leg side. While Pujara followed the pull shot around the corner, Michael Pepper took a couple of paces and dived to his left, but it was beyond the wicketkeeper and away, almost behind, directly for 4. And Pujara picks up another boundary. He's on to 18. KL Rahul has 4. At the end of the over, India are 28 for 1. They lead by 64 runs.
Immaterial, really. If I think you summed it up really nicely when Pujara was batting, or when he came out to bat actually, that this game is all about how much or how longer Pujara can bat. There's nothing left in this game unless KL Rahul decides he's had enough and Ajinkya Rahane comes out to bat.
Yes, yeah, I might have been a bit unfair on Ajinkya Rahane there when I said that it was all about Pujara, because Rahane will play, almost certainly Rahane will play next week.
You are assuming that.
I'm assuming that.
Yes.
I think he's the vice captain, isn't he? He was captain the last time India played a test match.
Didn't stop him from getting dropped in South Africa for the first 2 tests.
No.
So.
But we're assuming that Rahane will play, and he's a man who could do with some runs. He only made 17 in the first innings. New bowler, Shane Snater, coming in from the Hayes close end. That's a skinny delivery that's almost pinned KL Rahul in front. As it is, Rahul's got enough bat onto the ball to send it very fine for 4 more. So Rahul only dealing in boundaries at the moment. He's on to 8, and India move to 32 for 1. Yeah, Snater's only a short figure. He's got a very limmy action, arms all over the place, whirring around. And Rahul almost looked like he didn't know what to make of Snater then. And the ball hurried onto him with no great bounce. And the right-hander was almost in trouble. Snater again, he's got hair bouncing all over the place. And bowls and edged, and Kaikan at second dropped! Well, Matt Coles has druggled that 3 or 4 times. For all the world, he looked like he'd grabbed it. And eventually, after the ball bounced maybe once, twice, 3 times, it dropped to the turf and Coles slumped to the ground like a mighty oak tree that had been felled in the woods, and KL Rahul has a life on 8, and Shane Snater has denied a wicket. It remains 32 for 1.
Well, full credit to the bowler and maybe a little bit to the slip fielder as well. He tried, and then he tried again, and then he tried one last time, but the ball just wouldn't stick.
Well, Snater tries again. He's in now and he bowls to Rahul, who's forcing off the back foot inside half of the bat. Snater feigns to throw, but doesn't let go of the ball, and things have just started happening since Shane Snater was brought into the attack. Rahul could have been LBW first ball, dropped second, inside edge almost from the third delivery.
It's almost like he wants Rahane to bat.
Well, Matt Coles kicks at the turf at second slip. A big puff of dust flies towards third slip. Paul Walter. Coles has got his arms folded as Snater comes in again once more, and this time Rahul plays comfortably with a straight bat and walks a square leg with his right hand on top of his blue helmet. And the reaction also from the crowd was excellent when Coles, because they thought for all the world he'd caught it, and there was oohs and ahs and cheers, and then a huge sigh as they realised that the red leather was resting on the dusty ground.
I was just going to say that, because with every passing moment, and it looked like forever, time had stopped. You know, he was Dr. I'll come back to that.
Snater bowls, full delivery. Rahul drives up to mid-on where Wesley just about does enough to prevent the run.
Who's the Doctor in the Marvel series?
No, comic books are an absolute blind spot. If you're talking
Doctor Strange. So it was almost like he had controlled time, and then first attempt, and the second attempt, and the third attempt, and with every ooh and ah, the pressure was just increasing on him to catch it. But like I said, that ball just didn't want to stick to it.
It was actually pretty regulation chance.
Yes.
This is about Coles about knee height towards the right. Snater again outside the off stump, left alone. There's no run. That is the end of the over. India are 32 for 1. The reprieved KL Rahul has 8. Pujara has 18. Chetan Narula to pick up the commentary will be joined by Paul Newton.
32 for 1 for India in their second innings, but it's not about the runs, it's not about the overs, it's just about the time that Indian batsmen want to spend in the middle. And it'll be Walter back into the attack. He's just bowled a 1 over, he's gone for 8 runs. But Rahul with a reprieve on 8. We gave a pretty descriptive account of that dropped catch. Stefan and I, 2 slips as Walter runs in from the river end to Pujara. Short delivery as he swivels on the back foot and pulls it down towards fine leg for just 1 run. India move on to 33 for 1 as I welcome Paul Newton once again.
Yep, nice to see you, Chetan. And yeah, well, it should have been caught. The Essex slip catching has been pretty poor in this game. No sooner as have they removed Chopra from the slips, but they find someone else who can't hold on onto them. And it's worth remembering that is Coles' second drop in the slips in the match, because he dropped one in the first innings.
Overall, I think there have been 5 or 6 drops.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, they've been quite good, I think, in this game, Essex, but they'd have been a lot better if they'd held the slip catches.
This time Walter again, and down the leg side, straying past the leg stump. Rahul trying to flick it off, but no contact there, no addition into the score. It's still 33 for 1. And you just try and wonder what would have happened if Essex had held all their catches. Vijay was on 6, Rahane was on 4. Surely Vijay would have batted again if that catch had been taken.
Yes. As
Walter runs in once again to Rahul. Fuller delivery again, drifting down the middle leg, and he's helped it along towards fine leg for just a single. The batsman crossover. Score now 34 as Rahul moves on to 9. India, in comparison, I was just asked on Twitter as to how many. It's always a worry among Indian fans because India don't have a confirmed slip cordon. So how many catches did India drop in slips? And I was happy to report or reply that none, in fact. Shikhar Dhawan took a brilliant slip catch as Walter runs into, well, it's a full toss outside off stump, and Pujara makes it count. Low full volley, and he's just guided it past, enough bat on it to guide it past second slip, and 4 more runs. That was a poor delivery as India move on to 38 for 1.
Yeah, I think it slipped out of his hand, that one, and it is the area where Paul Walter will know he's got to improve. He's very good in the wickets column. He got 4 wickets first innings, and he bowls some absolute jaffers, but a couple of deliveries and over are unpredictable and often go wide down various parts of the outside tram lines.
Again drifting down the leg side. Pujara wanted to play it towards fine leg, but couldn't connect. No run added there, but he's moved on to 23 of 32. So that should help his confidence a bit. In fact, it's 23 of 33 now with that last dot ball. Certainly making a case for himself for the first test now, especially with Shikhar Dhawan with a pair in this match. And before you ask me anything on selection, I'm not taking any questions. Walter once again from the river end to Pujara. Straighter this time, better line on the off and middle. He comes forward and prods it straight down back towards the bowler. End of over number 12 of the Indian innings. Second innings, in fact. It's 38 for 1.
Good ball to finish the over, and that's where he needs to be bowling it rather more often. Several emails to catch up on. Darren Cook says, good afternoon. I'm sure there will be plenty of chances for Indian players to play in the county championship if they want. Of course, the selfish, short-sighted counties will happily play them. There's nothing like watching a game with 6 overseas players in a team with the official overseas, the Colpacks and the passport players, etc. Who would want to watch counties filled with homegrown and English players like Yorkshire and Worcestershire select? Well, it's a fair point, but I think there's a nice balance to be struck with. In the county championship anyway, there is 1 overseas player allowed. In the T20 it's 2. I think what you're getting at particularly, Darren, is that with all the Colpacks who managed to come in almost overnight, they don't count as overseas players, and that's where you can end up with sides like Leicestershire were a few years ago, absolutely packed with them.
Slater to continue from the Hayes end. Rahul back of length this one. He's on the front foot and defends it back to the bowler. Darren almost sounds angry by our discussion on county cricket. Don't worry, Darren, not many Indian players will be coming along anytime soon.
No. You know, as I say, I mean, there's no doubt about it. County cricket does provide
Yes.
a wonderful education in that you can get such a rhythm going because you know, you're constantly in action. It does give you a chance to really find your feet.
Sneha once again 3 slips waiting as Rahul awaits, this time coming in back of Flint, rising over the off stump, and he shoulders arms, no runs added. It's 38 for 1 still.
Diana, one of our regulars from Calgary in Canada, Paul and Stefan and Chetan, she says, did these cricketers who opted for playing only one-day cricket get a lesser salary than one who played all forms of the game? Yes, that is the fact, Diana. Isn't that a sense that specialising might save the county money? Well, you could say that. I think the disappointment with Rashid was that Yorkshire would have wanted him to play not just white ball cricket but the red ball cricket and be happy to pay him the full whack.
Sneha once again to Rahul, who's on the front foot and dabs it down towards backward point. Back of leg delivery just on the off stump, and Rahul had no issues contending with it. Dot delivery though, it's still 38 for 1.
And I think the point would be, Diana, there are some players who quite genuinely are more suited to white ball cricket only, and you can understand that they might take that decision. But when you get a player like Rashid, who actually is a very fine bowler in all forms of the game, you don't really want, when he's in the middle of his career, for him to pack in the red ball game.
I have a question, Paul, and I'll come back to that after this delivery, as Sneha is running in to bowl at KL Rahul. Fuller delivery on the off stump. He's come forward and defends it straight to the fielder at extra cover. Again, a dot delivery which allows us time. Picking Rashid on the basis of his white ball form, he's picked up 18 wickets in 8 ODIs.
Yes.
8 ODIs against Australia and India, and you're saying that he's not played red ball. Let's pick him for white ball. Isn't that adding to a lot of pressure? Buying into the hype first, and then saying you better perform now.
Yep. Yes, it probably does, but he's probably up to it.
Sneha once again to Rahul, this time drifting on the middle leg, and he's clipped it off his pads down towards fine leg. There's protection in the deep though. The batsman meanwhile will cross over for 2 as Rahul moves into double figures. Score for India is 40 for 1.
Yeah, Stefan did make a very good point that you can't actually blame Rashid for being picked. You know, that's up to the selectors. So the real issue here is whether he should have been picked, having refused to play red ball cricket for his county.
I think this debate will linger on till Rashid plays the first test as Sneha runs into Rahul. This time it's almost a yorker on the off stump. He's dug it out very nicely and played it back to the bowler for a dot delivery. That's the end of over number 13. End of second over for Sneha. It's 40 for 1.
And question for you here, it would appear. Chetan from Rivlad again, Indian supporter. Could you ask Chetan Narula, what are the chances of any more Indians playing the remaining 2 county cricket matches, like Ravi Ashwin and Axar Patel, who will be with Durham for the rest of the season? He goes on: KL Rahul, Ajinkya Rahane, Virat Kohli, Bhuvi Kumar, Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah should request to play ASAP to improve their chances for the future. We'll come back to that.
As Walter continues from the river end, bowling to Pujara. This time, is it out? Yes, he's claiming a catch. It was a low catch towards short mid-wicket. Fuller delivery on middle and leg. He just flicked it and into the air. And again, the ball went at not too great a high to the fielder at deep mid-wicket. And it's a second wicket for India. Pujara, who's walking back for 23, waited just a while to see confirmation from the umpire, who probably gave him a nod, and now he walks back. It's 40 for 2. Walter has struck his first wicket, 1 for 14 in his third over.
And ironically, it was Varun Chopra who had such difficulty holding on to catches in the first innings. Good low catch, actually, to be fair to him. As you said, it went very low. I think it was Pujara who was dropped at second slip 10 minutes ago. Is that right? I think it was him rather than Rahul.
No, it was Rahul.
Oh, it was Rahul, was it? My mistake. So Pujara, however, he will be disappointed in that he got a start and has now got out.
And as we were discussing, he's done a favour, has Varun Chopra, to India. I'll be dismissing the wrong batsman. But more than that now, it's Ajinkya Rahane who's walking into bat. The scorecard says Karun Nair. Well, let me correct him. And, well, I hope he's listening, because that is Ajinkya Rahane his walk to the crease, and of course you can see the Nike bat in his hand. Did you know, Paul, that he gets each one of his bats signed by Rahul Dravid?
Ah, no, I didn't know that.
Idol for him.
Yep.
Personal idol for him.
They're taking a drinks break sensibly at the fall of a wicket, not for the first time. Just to complete Rivlad's question to you, Chetan, he goes on, he was surprised that the aforementioned players didn't play this year when they had a break. Could you ask Ravi Shastri and BCCI Chairman Shubman Gill and Prithvi Shaw, will they be eligible to play county cricket among other India under-19 players? I would have taken Mayank Agarwal ahead of Shikhar Dhawan. He hasn't learned how to play in England. A lost cause for sure. Just wasting time on someone who won't improve himself.
It's a long
it is.
question.
There's about
How many
six
did you get?
questions.
6 questions. I'll just answer the first one, or the second one, in fact. Rahul, Rahane, Kohli, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Shami, Bumrah. Well, Rahane and Shami might not be part of India's limited overs plans for the moment, but the rest will be playing in the UAE for the Asia Cup, so no, they won't be playing any more county cricket this season. Bhuvneshwar Kumar still recovering from injury, so again, no, he won't be playing either. And well, it's not about a question of putting it to Ravi Shastri or anybody else, but I think with time they will look to give Shubman Gill and Prithvi Shaw a chance to play county cricket. I'm not sure if the counties will want to snap up somebody who's so young. They would want, if they're going for overseas players and investing, I think they would rather invest in experience and players of stature to help their chances as well.
I tell you, I was impressed with bowling in the nets at lunch, and that was Jasprit Bumrah. He got terrific lift. He's good, you know. Certainly, if I were looking for an overseas player and he wanted experience in English conditions, I'd be very tempted. You know, I was very impressed with the amount of lift he got from a length.
Too busy though playing international cricket at the moment, because he's a prime bowler for India across formats. As Walter runs in to Ajinkya Rahane, 2 slips waiting. This one lifts off length onto the leg stump, straying down leg side was this delivery, and Ajinkya Rahane plays it high up on his ankles and is off the mark straight away.
So Essex with that second breakthrough here, continuing to do themselves every credit with the various players that they've brought in for this game, not least Paul Walter, top scorer with 75, took the most wickets, 4 in the first innings, now has a wicket in the second, getting rid of Pujara. Fine match for him.
Walter on the top of his mark. As KL Rahul inspecting the field at the moment, 2 slips and a catching mid-wicket in position for him as well. Walter this time wide outside the off stump. Too much room for Rahul really to chance his arm, and that's driven through cover for 4. Fielders didn't even get a chance to move as he moves on to 15. It's 45 for 2 for India now.
Yeah, another very poor wide delivery, and the pattern continues actually. There's no doubting Paul Walter does pick up wickets and he does bowl some superb balls, but he also sprays it around a lot, and that was too good an invitation to miss, and gloriously stroked away through extra cover.
Walter once more to KL Rahul. From this one, full toss, and no ball call. It's a full toss and it's hit Rahul straight on the waist, or perhaps the ribcage. It was difficult to see from a distance, but he tried to swivel and play it onto the leg side, and instead completely missed, and is now moaning in pain down on his knees. We'll be seeing if the physio comes running in, the Indian physio. Yes, he's there. That can be a painful blow, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's you know, there's a fine line between full toss and beamer in that context. Okay, it wasn't anywhere near his head, so it's not really a beamer, but it's just slipped out of Walter's hands, and he doesn't have as much control over his deliveries as I was indicating from the ball before, which was very wide, half volley, spanked away deservedly to the boundary in great style by Rahul. I think he's going to be all right. A complete accident. There's no way it was intentional from Walter there, but just indicating that he does spray the ball around a lot. If he could just gain much better control over his, in particular, line. Line is more of a problem with him than length. He does, I mean, the previous ball was about 2 feet outside off stump, and this one was straight at the batsman's body. But it's just, good news is that Rahul, I won't say none the worse, but he's not seriously injured and he's going to resume.
15 not out for Rahul as Walter comes in. Doesn't lose the ball this time, but it's on the off stump, short of length, and Rahul takes a full swipe at it onto the leg side and gets a boundary at square leg, which is what perhaps he had intended of the last delivery, but got hit instead. Meanwhile, the score has moved to 50 for 2 in the second innings for India. Rahul not out on 19. Rahane has just joined him recently. He's on 1.
And another email has come from Nicholas Barnett, who says, nah, a bronze duck, nah. Of course, I did refer to a third ball duck for Shikhar Dhawan as technically a bronze duck. You say quite amusing, though, because it was his third ball. We'll come back, there's more.
Walter once again to KL Rahul, 2 slips waiting. This time again a full toss outside the off stump, hit straight through to cover, where the fielder gets down and makes a one-handed stop. So stopped almost a definite boundary there. Could have placed it better, but Walter bowling a lot of looseners at Rahul at the moment. That one a dot delivery though.
Yes, I think it might be an idea to give him a rest after this over. He's recently picked up the wicket of Pujara, but this over's been all over the place. Fine stop that from Nick Brown, preventing 4 runs.
Walter once again to Rahul, who's facing, this time again sprayed it onto the leg stump, and he's flicked it towards mid-wicket. No run added. That's the end of the over, and perhaps Walter's spell. 3 overs, 1 for 24. India are 50 for 2 at the end of 14 overs.
And Nicholas continues, where I come from, a duck is out without scoring, a golden duck is first ball without scoring and without hitting it, and a silver duck is out first ball without scoring, so caught usually. We didn't have a bronze one. Very nice to listen to you. Small team, not credited by the BBC with your names anywhere on the internet that I could find, but doing a fine job. Thank you very much indeed, Nick. I'm Paul Newton. With me is Chetan Narula, and earlier you'll have heard Dick Davis and Stefan Schamolt from 5 Live Sports Extra. So 50 for 2 up on the board, and I fancy the upcoming over will be the last before tea.
It's Snater who's at the top of his mark, and he will be bowling from the haze, and 3 slips in position for him, as Ajinkya Rahane is the new batsman who's facing. Rahul has taken off his helmet, and he's still shadow practicing hitting that full toss that hit him on the waist instead. But right now it's Snater as a breeze blows into the box, which is very calming, and onto the off stump, back of length, incoming delivery. Rahane onto the front foot and plays it towards extra cover for no run added.
I think we may get about another hour's play after tea. Now technically the days of the match go through to 6, but quite often matches like this will be called off around about 5 o'clock with the final hour foregone, and I would imagine India would be quite keen to move on and take up quarters in Birmingham.
They are too keen. Snater with this delivery to Rahane, back of length on the off and middle. He comes forward and defends it back to the bowler. Quite keen actually. They've been spending a lot of time in traffic from one city to another. They travel by bus because logistically it's not possible to provide safety in train travel. They did travel by train once in 2014, Cardiff to, if I'm not wrong, it was Cardiff to Nottingham via London, as Snater runs in. Rahane facing fuller delivery on the middle end leg, and he's clipped off his pads. Not too much batch on it though. The fielder at fine leg will come in and cut it off. The batsman crossover for 2 runs. Score moves on to 52 for 2. So Paul, I packed my bags and made it for the Cardiff station. Just did some shopping, got some souvenirs. Was first time in Cardiff, and as soon as I pressed the button of the lift at the station to go to the platform, the door opened, and in there was Virat Kohli, Duncan Fletcher, Ravi Shastri and MS Dhoni. Can you imagine where my eyes were? As Snater runs in, this time to Ajinkya Rahane, incoming delivery, back of length rising, and he flicks it towards the leg side, sets off for a quick single. Good understanding between the batsmen as Rahane moves on to 4 not out, score 53 for 2.
Yes, well that was quite some catch in the lift there, I have to say. But hopefully the train journey went as well.
Yeah, they were not in my compartment, so
Yeah.
they were traveling first class, you know.
Yeah.
And I was there's no economy class on the train, but yeah, I was in the regular seat. But had a good conversation with Ashwin at the platforms while we were waiting for the train. As Snater on the top of his mark, now running into KL Rahul. 3 slips for him as well, this time on the off stump, but he's on the front foot and defends straight to the fielder at cover. No run added. It's still 53 for 2.
So the game, as we approach tea, very much heading for the inevitable draw, but have to say, even though in the very closing stages it'll probably be a little bit tedious, but I have to say I think there's been some very good enjoyable cricket played in the match. A fine chance for the ample Chelmsford crowds to enjoy the delights of watching, amongst others, Virat Kohli bat.
Snater once again, Rahul on strike, onto his back foot this time. The ball was on off and middle, just back of length, and he tried to flick it to the leg side, but was not successful. Dot delivery to end the over. It's 53 for 2 as the players walk off for tea on this final day of the tour game between India and Essex. Rahul 19 not out of 49 balls, and Ajinkya Rahane 4 not out of 5 deliveries. It's well, it's not been gripping cricket, but India are trying to make the most of it as they are batting in the second innings and preparing for the first test on August 1. This was after Essex declared their innings, and the big news though for India was that Shikhar Dhawan was out for a 3-ball duck, or as one of our commenters said, that it was a bronze duck. Might not forget that term ever, Paul.
No.
But well, Rahul, who opened, he's 19 not out, like I'd mentioned earlier. Cheteshwar Pujara, number 3, he's got some batting time. 35 balls. More importantly, he scored more runs than Shikhar Dhawan, so perhaps sorted the top order conundrum, top order conundrum for India. 23 he scored before he was out to a low catch by Chopra at short mid wicket. In fact, giving Walter his first wicket. Ajinkya Rahane, the not out batsman. India would like to bat perhaps for an hour after tea, as the score at the tea break is 53 for 2.
So we prepare for the final session of this what's become a 3-day match. I have to say I've thoroughly enjoyed it, with India 53 for 2 leading by 89. To excuse me. I should be going into the BBC Essex 4 o'clock news pretty much as play restarts, because today we've been 3 or 4 minutes behind the official start times. It was true for the first session, and true ever since. Paul Newton here, about to be joined by Chetan Narula, Stefan Schemmelt, the remaining member of our team at the moment. Thank you to Dick Davis, who was with us earlier, and also to Don Topley, who was here on Wednesday, along with our scorer David Jackman. And of course not forgetting as well Ankur Desai, who was with us on first day. Lovely to have Ankur and Chetan with us for this tour game, and I think it's produced some very good cricket from which both sides can be pleased. India, you know, most of their batsmen have had a hit before the first test, and the quicker bowlers have certainly had some good spells for India, and Essex will be delighted with the way 3 or 4 of the younger players who haven't been in the team have come in and done themselves justice, given a very good account of themselves. So just waiting for the umpires to reappear, and we'll be underway in the final session, which may end 5 o'clock or even as early as 10 to 5. I remember from old championship games that a side could declare at just gone 10 to 5, and then that would get rid of another 10 minutes before the final hour was due to start. We shall see whether that is the case, or whether they go through to 6 o'clock. The umpires are just emerging from their little eyrie halfway up the pavilion steps. But Chetan, some good cricket played in the game.
Let me give some good news first, because as we are ready for this final session of play, there's a lot of grey cloud about, which we haven't seen.
Yeah.
For what I'm told, two months nearly here in
No,
Chelmsford.
you're right. Yeah, May the 31st was the last rain we had.
And suddenly it's all greyish. Temperatures have dropped. There's a nice breeze that's blowing into the comms box at the moment. But yes, it's been good cricket from both sides. India looking to, and I can talk more freely about India because they're looking to gain a lot out of this tour game, trying to get as much practice in before the first test. I think a majority of their batsmen have indeed gained in terms of time spent at the crease. India haven't played test cricket for a while now. Last time they played was in January against South Africa. In fact, they did play against Afghanistan, but that game got over in 2 days. So apart from a couple of players who did extremely well with the bat and ball in that game, so there was, I mean, 2 days you can't really gain too much, can you? And again, no disrespect to Afghanistan, but that was a bit of a mismatch. So the last proper, in fact, test for them was against South Africa. It's been 6 months since then. So England posed a totally different challenge, and it's all about getting ready. Pace bowlers, I thought, did well too. Bowled quite a few overs. 83 overs amongst the pacers, including Hardik Pandya. Just the 11 for the spinners. Of course, not helped by the fact that R. Ashwin injured his finger yesterday, but he's fine. For the benefit of Indian fans, I would like to say during the tea time he was bowling on the side wicket, looked absolutely fine. So he's recovered from that minor hit on his hand. As players get ready on the boundary rope for this final session, which again, like Paul said, might be just the 1 hour of play.
Yeah, I'm just about to go into the BBC Essex 4 o'clock news. Beautifully timed there, Chetan. Thank you very much. And stand by, everyone, for the news bulletin. And just going in now. Yes, very good afternoon, Nick. We may just have 1 hour left of play here. The game's going to be a draw, but there's been some great cricket. India made 395. Paul Walter picked up 4 wickets. Essex replied very creditably, 359 for 8 before they declared 36 runs behind. Paul Walter, again, starred with a top score of 75. A very encouraging 68 as well from Michael Pepper. Tom Wesley getting 57, captaining the side here. And as they went to tea, was still to start start again after tea. India 53 for 2. A wonderful spell of 3 balls from Matt Quinn, the third of which, having beaten Shikhar Dhawan with the first 2, produced the wicket. And Pujara was out to Paul Walter again for 23. So 53 for 2, 89 ahead, and we probably have just another hour's play here. And the 2 Indian batsmen coming out ready to resume, with KL Rahul on 19, having recently been joined by Rahane, who's made 4. 53 for 2, leading by 89, and we've so far had 15 overs. So the Essex team are now taking the field. Paul Walter, who bowled a very erratic over going up to tea, and he inadvertently struck Rahul with a sort of full toss that was only just shy of being a beamer. And he also sprayed the ball around. He does bowl some very good balls, Paul Walter, but just needs to gain rather more command of his line more than his length. The length's usually not too badly out, but he is erratic. But having said that, he has got 5 wickets in the match, and sometimes being rather unpredictable, leaving batsmen not being sure where the next ball is coming from, can actually work in your favour. The umpire, Nick Cook, currently standing at square leg, has just released the ball, 15 overs old, to the Essex skipper Tom Wesley, who throws it to Paul Walter at the river end, and he is just about to come in and bowl to Ajinkya Rahane, and that's a nice looping delivery, not much pace on it, a little bit of swing, and played back past the bowler down to mid-off. And Matt Dixon, no run, 53 for 2.
For me, what's interesting to see here is that if we are going to have just the hour and a half of play here, India have sent the same batsman out. Ajinkya Rahane, of course, needs quite a bit of batting time, but Rahul has had quite a hit in this match.
As Walter's in, left arm over, river end bowls, and this ball's tucked off the pads. There won't be a run here, as it's well fielded by Kushi, closing rapidly there. He made 14 not out on debut, and Essex is 359 for 8 declared. India remain 53 for 2.
Again, I'm not suggesting to discuss selection, because I haven't done that ever since the second innings began. But Karuna, I don't think, is in the reckoning for the first test, at least, unless India decide to throw a curveball and play an extra batsman.
Walter bowls again. There's quite an extravagant amount of swing. There's quite a breeze blowing now. As Chetan was saying, it's largely clouded over, and there were forecast thunderstorms, which thankfully have held off so far, but even if they don't fall on Chelmsford, I think they're in the area. 53 for 2.
I got a message saying London had some rain.
Yep, there we are then. That would only be 30 miles away. And here comes Walter. Bowls, and thick inside edge will produce at least 1 run, and it will just be the 1, down to Matt Quinn, coming off the long leg boundary, and that takes the score on to 54 for 2, the lead of 90. Rivlad comes back with another email. He says, I think 1 spinner would be fine for India for the test match. Ravi Ashwin with 4 seamers, including Hardik Pandya, Mohammad Shami, Ishant Sharma and Umesh Yadav. I would have preferred Jasprit Bumrah and Bhuvi Kumar playing, but unfortunately they have succumbed to injury. I'm looking forward to the future Indian bowlers, especially those that I've highlighted plenty of times. Here comes Walter into bowl again to KL Rahul. This time looping full toss is played to mid-wicket. There's no run, score remaining at 54 for 2, and he continues. I'm looking forward to Australia versus India later this year as well. The FTP looks very interesting, with home and away in 2021 and 2021-22. I've been following the India under-19s who were playing in Sri Lanka. Arjun Tendulkar has some potential. I wonder where his future will be. Have a nice tea, gentlemen. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Nothing against as Walter bowls. And this ball is pulled away for 4. It was a poor delivery from Walter, who sort of rather lost his line and length here. I think he much prefers to bowl from the top end, and that was a poor over. 58 for 2, and 4 more runs takes Rahul up to 23. Just finishing off this email, nothing against Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma. I feel they are just flat track bullies when it comes to test cricket, and aren't worth taking on away tours, a spot that could be used by an up and coming player.
I think you said a lot during this
Yes.
match, so I'll let this one go.
Yes, okay. Fair enough. Thank you very much, Rivlov, for your various contributions. Great to hear from you. And we have, just checking, I think we've got one more. No, in fact, we haven't got one more email at this point. Essex.cricket@bbc.co.uk. Be quick if you're wanting to make your point, because we're coming now toward the later stages of this game. Shane Snater is going to continue from where he left off before tea, from the Hayes close end. And initially on strike will be Ajinkya Rahane. 58 for 2 on the board, leading by 94. Snater bowls, and the ball dabbed to backward point. Varun Chopra fields no run.
I thought Walter didn't look too interested in bowling that last over, really, because I think only 1 or maybe 2 deliveries out of 6 were at full tilt. The rest were sort of full tosses or loopy full balls, ready for the batsman to hit. But again, if India are looking at just an hour of play here, or even both the teams are looking just an hour of play, I thought maybe Karun Nair could have walked out after tea. At least be ready if there's need.
Snater bowls again. This ball is smashed for 4. Glorious shot off the back foot, hammered through the covers, and that takes Rahane along to 9 and India to 62 for 2.
Glorious shot that from Rahane, stood tall at the crease and just smacked it through extra cover for 4 fielders. Really, in that region, had no chance except to go back and fetch it. He's moved on to 9.
I think Nick Brown was very pleased not to be able to get a hand to that. It was hit so hard by Rahane, who now faces the next delivery from Snater. Right arm over from the Hayes close end, bowls, and back to just playing a defensive shot out to Chopra at backward point. No run.
Compact defense on that last ball from Rahane. Somebody who can score and defend at the same time. Very valuable for India, especially on overseas tours. Has a great record everywhere, especially in the last overseas cycle that India were on. Will be a key batsman for India if they are to do well in this upcoming 5-match series.
Snater in again past Nick Cook, bowls, and very well stopped at backward point by the tumbling Chopra to his right. Otherwise, I think, although it didn't come right out of the middle of the bat, that would have been another boundary to the short pavilion side. Bowling from the Hayes close end, and India continue at 62 for 2 with KL Rahul making his second good contribution of the match. 58 first innings, 23 not out second. He certainly, if he is selected for next Wednesday, will go into that first test feeling he's in form. And Snater comes in again, long run up, probably a little bit too long if we're honest, and the next ball is played out into the point region. Again, it's Chopra who fields. 62 for 2. Snater, who he's sort of medium pace really, and yet he comes off a run up that perhaps you might expect from someone of out and out pace.
He's almost comparable, for me, he's almost comparable to Shardul Thakur. Both of them are not too tall a height.
Yep.
Compact, fast bowlers, if you will.
He comes in again, very straight approach. Bowls, nice drive, not totally timed, so won't go to the boundary. Quinn is after it. He uses his boots, probably wisely, to knock it back rather than bending down from his height of about 6'6". And 2 runs are taken as the ball was stopped about 5 yards short of the extra cover boundary. 64 for 2, 11 now to Rahane and 23 to Rahul.
As I was saying, compact fast bowlers, both of them, Thakur and Snater. So they have a bustling run up to the crease, and suddenly, arms expanding and just bowling almost a burst of energy at delivery. Perhaps for a lack of height, if I might say, they have to put in that extra effort. Especially I see Shardul Thakur all the time, so I think because of the lack of height, especially when he's delivering, he puts in that extra energy to get that skiddy bounce that he sometimes can, especially in white ball cricket, afford off the pitch.
Walter is going to continue, and bowling to Rahul with 2 slips. That one just strays onto leg stump and tucked off the pads to Quinn at long leg. Single, 65 for 2, and Rahul moves on to 24.
Clouds moving away from us a little bit. Sun just trying to peek through.
Yep, this is virtually the only period of the game where we haven't had clear blue sky. As Walter comes in again. Bowls short and pulled away for another boundary. Poor bowling this from Walter. I'm surprised Tom Wesley has persisted with him, because just before tea he completely lost his line and length, and that one was far too short and going down leg side, and all Rahane really had to do was just swivel round and belt it down to fine leg. 69 for 2, Rahane up to 15.
I think a little bit of interest has gone out of this game at the moment.
Yes, I think you're right, as Walter's up again. Bowls, and that's a long way outside off stump as Walter overcompensates, and that's the trouble. If you bowl down one side, you then tend to overcompensate even wider down the other, but it doesn't produce any further run. But I think you're right, Chetan. The players know that it's going to peter out into a draw. The two men they most wanted to see have a hit, well, Shikhar Dhawan had one, but well, in fact he didn't really hit anything. Was out for a third ball duck. Pujara at least made 23. Walter, who got him out, bowls, and that's going to be 4 more. Was it off the pad? I think it may well have been, or was there a bit of bat? No, it's 4 leg byes, and the score goes up to 73 for 2. But the fact that it could hit him on the pad will tell you that again it was an ill-directed delivery.
It's just about going through the motions at the moment. It just feels like that. There's no energy on the ground. But again, practice games like this can meander towards an end like this, where the result doesn't really matter.
As Walter's in and bowls, and that's a better ball, but played down to mid-off. I think Walter, as much as anything, is trying to send a hint to his skipper Tom Wesley that he'd rather be bowling from the Hayes close end.
I think he's trying to say I would rather not be bowling at all.
Well, yes, that could be right as well. But I just think that he is just bowling a little bit like the spoilt child who's saying, well, I'm much better from the top end, why can't I have a go from there? And here he is now, in and bowls, and this ball keeps a little bit low and beautifully played off the back foot for 4. Rahane looks in very good touch out there, I must say. The race is up to 19 and the score to 70. Just wondering if I'm ahead of the or if the scoreboard's ahead of me here. I think they have got the score right already. 73 for 2, with Rahane on to 19 and Rahul on 24, and thankfully for Paul Walter that over has finished.
In fact, it's just a correction there. It's 77 for 2. They're a little late in adding up the runs.
I waited ages and it still hasn't gone up to 77.
It just added once you finished.
Yes.
So. Again, at the moment, will be Sneha who will be continuing. But again, it just feels like maybe a bowling change. Again, Walter isn't going full tilt. Couple of very easy boundaries for Rahane.
Just let me interrupt you to say Stefan is going to join you for 10 minutes or so, and I'll be back. Yes, he's going to come in. Carry on, Cheetah.
So Sneha at the Hayes end. 2 slips in position. We have KL Rahul on strike. 24 not out. Change in comps in just a bit as Stefan will join me, which will probably be the last 10 minutes for me calling for this game. As on the off stump this time, back of length, and Rahul cuts away to backward point. There's no run added. 77 for 2. What do you think about the cloud cover now, Stefan?
Most welcome. That is what I think about this cloud cover at the moment. Everyone's in the shade. Keep it nice and cool.
That's a pointed reference towards me. If you have just joined us, first time in 3 days, I've tricked Stefan a couple of times, taking his chair in the shade, resting my water, my laptop, my iPad, myself. As Sneha on the top of his mark. 2 slips in position. Rahul on strike. Fuller delivery on the middle leg. On drive towards mid-wicket, no run added. Sneha got excited by that flick. He thought if the batsman perhaps missed, there might be a chance to appeal for LBW, but nothing of that sort happened. Score still 77 for 2. Feels like a lazy afternoon, Sunday afternoon. We just had a healthy lunch and relaxing. even the pace of cricket has dropped. Sneha once again to Rahul. Oh, beaten. That's a good delivery. First we have seen after T. First one of intent back of length. Got Rahul prodding forward and completely missed the line that time. Sneha beats Rahul. Came close to inducing an edge. Score still 77 for 2. He's bowling into the wind here. Perhaps that made a difference as well. Sun behind the clouds once again. Welcome change. Respite really from the last 3 days or 2.5 days. Again an outside edge. Thickish one though. On the front foot. Back of length delivery. Just edged it towards a backward point. No harm done. No run added.
Yeah, it feels like all the stories in this match have played out now. India have got some overs into the legs of the pace bowlers. If anything, from an Indian point of view, it's good that Ajinkya Rahane is spending time at the middle. They potentially would have wanted more for Dhawan and Pujara, but they've both come and gone, and Rahul is still forcing his case.
Sneha once again to Rahul. Fuller delivery outside the off stump. He's on the front foot and drives thickish edge down towards the third man and crosses over for a single. It's 25 not out for Rahul. 78 for 2 the score.
Will India be pleased with their workout?
Relatively pleased. Like you said, 2 batsmen should have perhaps got more runs. They'll be thankful to Essex for dropping those catches. Otherwise they would have reasons to worry about even Vijay, Rahane, even more than at present, as Sneha runs in once again. This time it's Rahane facing. Fuller delivery again on the off and middle. He comes forward and pushes it for a dot delivery. End of the 5th over for Sneha. Overall it's 19 overs done. 78 for 2. The breeze ever stronger.
Lovely, isn't it? Yeah, for the first time in this match we're not bathed in sunshine. The clouds are coming over us, and it's slightly not fitting, not in keeping with what we've seen over these 3 days, that we're going to end in gloom. Paul pointed out to me that play could in theory be ended at around about 10-2, because if India opt to declare, that would take the 10-minute change of innings up to 5 o'clock. Having said that, because this isn't a first class fixture, I think they can basically do whatever they want. I think if the teams decided that they wanted to call it a day now, we could probably wander away.
Yeah, I hope they don't catch me off guard, because I have to have a report to write, but definitely Walter has got some time off, because we have a bowling change.
It's Aaron Nijar with his left arm spin.
Yes, spin in action. A slip will be in position for Aaron Nijar as he comes from the river end over the wicket.
No, sorry.
We have fine leg up in this, fine leg up and backward point. Extra cover mid wicket. This time cut away. Fielder at cover present as well. The ball straight to him. Rahul cut that one outside the off stump. Mid off and mid on present as well. It's Nijar to Rahul. On the middle stump this time, he goes back onto the back foot and plays it towards the leg side. There's the fielder in the deep, but the batsman will cross over for a single, and he moves on to 26. 79 for 2.
You feel like there's not much more KL Rahul could have done in this game to push his claims. Made 50 in the first innings, unbeaten 26 in the second so far.
It's Nijar to Rahane for the first time. He comes onto the front foot to a fuller delivery and defence towards the leg side. I think it was always going to be a case of where we can fit Rahul in from the Indian team management's point of view, rather than him playing his way into the first test. Bit of loop on that delivery, but just short of length. So Rahul Rahane backs off and cuts it, but finds the fielder at backward point.
Just realised that I looked quite ridiculous wearing my sunglasses when it was so cloudy, so I've taken them off.
Nijar once again, this time straight delivery onto the middle stump and defended on towards the leg side. Do you realise that it's gone so dark? I mean, relatively darker that we can see that advert, electronic advert board for the first time in 3 days.
Yeah, it's shining quite brightly, isn't it?
Nijar once again to Rahane on the back foot once more. Just back of length, pushed it towards mid-off to end the over. It's 79 for 2.
So Chetan is going to leave us. He's going to go and begin tapping away. Lots of people keen to read what he's made of this third and final day, indeed this match as a whole. Thanks for your company over the past 3 days, Chetan Narula. And we think that we may only have 35 minutes or so of play remaining today and in this match. India 79 for 2 in their second innings. If you're just joining us, Essex declared their first innings on 359 for 8. That was 36 runs behind. And India have now moved on to 79 for 2 with KL Rahul on 26, Ajinkya Rahane on 19, Shikhar Dhawan and Cheteshwar Pujara, the batsman, out. Here comes Shane Snater bowling to KL Rahul. Lovely drive by KL Rahul through the covers, bouncing back off the wall at extra cover. Picks up 4 and the score moves on to 83 for 2. And KL Rahul continues to look in fine touch. Remains to be seen if he can earn a place in that India 11 for the first test match at Edgbaston next week. His claim would have been boosted by the fact that Shikhar Dhawan has faced only 4 deliveries across both innings in this match, and Cheteshwar Pujara failed to kick on after making a start in the second innings. Snater, dark hair bouncing, is in, that's outside the off stump, and Rahul just angles the ball towards point. Varun Chopra does the fielding and there's no run. There's 2 slips in place for the right arm over Snater. There's a point, a cover, a mid-off, mid-on, a mid-wicket and a long leg. There's a third man as well down beneath the Tom Pearce stand. Paul Walter, the tall mid-off fielder, shines the ball vigorously on the back of his trousers, and Snater bowls. Good diving stop at mid-wicket. Means there's only a couple taken when maybe that ball would have reached the boundary. The ball angled in onto the pads of KL Rahul, just clipped off his toes. Run through for a couple. Score moves on to 85 for 2. Rahul has 32 from 61 deliveries. Michael Pepper, the wicket-keeper, has got old-fashioned style black gloves that cover his wrist. He's in conversation with first slip Aaron Nijar, second slip Paul Walter. Snater comes in once more, skating, and it's down the leg side. There'll be 4 more before something's runs. In fact, the umpire decides that KL Rahul just got a little tickle on that, and it's gone very fine. It's a very fine leg boundary, and India move on to 89 for 2. KL Rahul has 36, Ajinkya Rahane has 19.
Spot or 2 of rain beginning to fall out there, Stefan.
Paul Newton joins me. I've got some good news, Paul. I'm not required by 5 Live at
right.
4:30, so you have my company for a little while longer.
Excellent.
Snater, he's got a bandage on his left arm and he's bouncing into KL Rahul. It's outside the off stump, left on length by Rahul. The ball just nips back and Snater has a good hard look as if to say, I'm not sure you should have been leaving that one, you know.
Yeah, it was probably the best ball we've seen for, well, since tea really. It's been indifferent, the bowling from Essex since the break, and India have moved along quite smartly. I think it was 53 for 2 at the break, and it's now 89 for 2, leading by 125.
Well, you felt a drop of precipitation.
Yep. Yes, I did, and you can see it's sort of looking far more ominous now.
Snater hurries towards us. That's beating Rahul, almost skidding through past the outside edge and past the off stump. That completes the over. India are 89 for 2.
I checked out yesterday. You picked me up on Wednesday on the use of my word chiz.
Oh yeah.
and it is duly in the dictionary. It's described as a schoolboy slang word.
Oh, really?
Popularised in a group of books called Molesworth, who was a sort of schoolboy in these books in around about the 50s and 60s. CHIZZ. Swizz is normally spelt with just the one Z, and both of them are classified as to cheat or to swindle.
That is what I have learned in my 3 days in Chelmsford.
It's a long way to come for just one word. But
Aaron Nijar, left arm spin round the wicket to Ajinkya Rahane. Rahane goes back and pushes the ball back to the bowler. As Paul said, there are some grey clouds overhead threatening us with rain. I say threatening, almost promising, teasing us with rain. As Nijar throws his arms up into the air, then delivers the ball to Rahane, who prods forward to defend.
And I have to say, I think if the rain were to set in with any seriousness, that they probably would announce that there'd be no further play before too much longer.
In fact, it is raining. It's raining pretty heavily. There's cheers from the crowd, and the players are all, and the umpires are sprinting from the field. Rain has stopped play. Paul Newton very swiftly removes the bears from in front of us, and you can hear how heavily the rain is falling now. There's all sorts of radio equipment that we're having to cover up. It's getting very wet in the commentary box.
Yeah, I think we might just call it a day there here, because we don't want to get the equipment damaged. So I don't think there'll be any more play, but
we'll take
if there
a break.
is, we'll be back with you.